Unified School District's Board of Education. We did start at 4:45 this afternoon and had a workshop, and we will have executive summaries of that. And we always start our open session with a Pledge of Allegiance. And I think I'm going to have Mrs. Hill lead us.
Be my honor. Put your hand over your heart. Ready, set, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. We have started, not only do we have an executive summary of our workshops, we have also started streaming on our LaSalle YouTube station, our workshops that start before the formal business part of our board meeting. I really recommend, if you have more time to spend watching board meetings, that you tune into the workshop. We have discussions, we have presentations. Frequently, new ideas will come up and will just be presented to us so that we can think about it. But it is a good opportunity to see where the district is going. And after I have said that, we're now going on to our executive summaries, and I'll have Dr. Nguyen start with hers.
Wonderful. Well, our financial advisor, Tim Carty, gave a bond sale summary that the district completed back in June, where everything is now finalized, so that's the reason we're bringing it up to this point right now. First of all, we did a Measure K bond refinancing. Our previous bond, that rate was at 5.34%. We were able to capture 2.55% this time around back in June, which taxpayers will have a savings of about 4.46% from, $4.4 million. That's from 2021 to 2039. And there is no extension of term for that. So that was the savings that we were able to capture back in June. With combined savings to the district from 2016 with some of the Measure K refinance of about $3.9 million in 2016. Okay. Oh, no. Okay. In 2016, and plus the savings from the 2020 bond refinancing of $4.6 million. This captured a total savings of $8.4 million to the taxpayer for the district, and with no extension of term. That is not allowed. So that's great news for that. We also issued two separate bond issues. The first one is Measure K, and we were able to get a 25-year interest rate at 2.57%. And the second one is the Measure G, and that one is a bigger bond, and the rate is at 2.24%. By moving the Measure G, we were able from 2021 to 2020, based on our term when we initially passed the bond back in 2018. But by moving that 1 year up to 2020, we're able to save the district about $29.8 million. So we're very excited that we're able to bring these savings to the district, as well as have the projects for our students as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nguyen. Everyone in the room is very happy that you and your team has been such good stewards of our taxpayers' money. I always said when we were going for the bond, the money's local and we will spend it well. And thank you for demonstrating the amount of money that we were able to save our taxpayers, which includes us on the board, in the future for our bonds, and still be able to build a high school and make it a wonderful place to be. So thank you so much. Okay, and the next one is Mrs. Reed will give an update on her report.
Thank you so much, President Catulli. I was fortunate to share with the board tonight really overall updates to our district opening and safety plan, looking at planning updates, site level updates, our custodial checklist, CDPH recommendations for ventilation, really a shared responsibility for sanitizing classrooms during the school day. We looked at the purchase that's moving forward with HEPA air purifiers for all classrooms in the district. Nurse Lawrence joined us. She went through and explained a new document, a symptom decision tree that's been added to Appendix 3 of our opening plan that was just approved by the Orange County Healthcare Agency. That really is a tool developed for school sites to help distinguish between low and high risk symptoms and help make decisions as staff or students may become ill or exhibit symptoms during the school year. Dr. Frazier was also able to co-present with us, and he reviewed our current plan for employee COVID-19 testing and shared that we had just finished surveillance testing at all sites in the district, as well as have a makeup testing this coming Thursday, and we'll be moving forward with the CDPH recommendations of testing all employees every 2 months. And I know Dr. Pulver will also share some of the highlights from the workshop this afternoon in his superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you so much. Now we're on to President's report. I don't have my clicker, so I'm assuming that someone else will push the button for me. Oh, and there, I also want to make a comment that that Mr. Dave Boyer is not sitting at the dais with us, but he's participating via Zoom. Because he's not in the room, all of our votes, when we take them, will be a roll call. But this is my President's report. One of the things that we started last school year before COVID hit, or actually the year before that, was we came together and we wanted to start a human task force. And so we did that, and we were able to meet as a group. We had many different committees. We're into our second year of dealing it, actually be starting the third coming up. I would like to, thank you so much. Okay, the two women on the screen right now is Nadia Williams, who was hired as our 60% Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion TOSA, and she is here to support all teachers to include diversity, equity, and inclusion in their school and their classrooms. And when we decided to first go down the road of human relations, we were trying to figure out how we are going to be able to do that with our current staff, because we didn't have anyone who was an expert in this. And so we hired a consultant who is Danielle Nava-Maharis, and she's been guiding us through this process and supporting all the different committees. Is that an echo? Anyway, so sorry. Our task force has now renamed itself to the Human Relations Advisory Council, which I think I'll probably have a hard time remembering it because I was on it when it was a task force. And right now we have our parent committee has been working really hard to do outreach to everyone. And this particular screen is not the final flyer, but it gives you the same information. And it's going to be a parent night, it'll be virtual on a Zoom meeting, and it'll be October 15th at 6 p.m. And the people on the bottom are all the people who have been working with this community task force. What we want to do is have several parent information, community information nights, just to raise everyone's awareness, to get more people involved, and just to start thinking about how we can all be better people and better citizens. So more information will be coming out on this particular parental workshop, but I wanted everyone to be aware that we have not given up on our Human Relations Council, and we are really very supportive of this, and I think it's something that we all need to participate in. I also wanted to make a little comment. I had contacted California School Boards Association, because one of the things that came out of this also was the request for a ethnic studies class at the high school, and our board gave direction to the administration to start that process. The process is not quick anyway, and COVID has probably slowed it down some, but we are starting in that process. But right now, AB 331, who was originally put through by Medina, is on the governor's desk, which meant so it's been passed by both houses at the state level. And what this law includes is that there will be an ethnic study class of one semester, and every school district will have to have one by 2025, school year 2025-26, and it will become a requirement for graduation on 2029-2030. I am sure we will have ours up and running before 2025. So I thought this was really, really great news. I am going to be very interested to see what curriculum the California Department of Ed comes up with this. But I just wanted to give an update on that so everybody knew about it. Okay, we are now on to our student rep report. And Nico, are you going to go to the podium?
Yes, you're going to vote.
And I don't have a mic.
For our Los Al seniors, college season is at hand, which means our senior summit is here too. It will be held virtually tomorrow night at 6:30, and the counselors will guide the seniors through the college application process. Back to school night is also fast approaching and will be held on September 30th. Teachers will introduce, highlight, and share their content for the year to all the parents who will be attending virtually. Now, on to the arts. For the art students currently doing distance learning or the art students in the Los Al at Home program, the Fine Arts Department put together over 200 take-home art kits so they can continue to develop their artistic talents at home. And let's follow up that good news with some more good news. Parking passes, as well as information about senior graduation gear, are available for pickup on Thursday the 24th from 12:30 to 4 o'clock at the high school in the back lot in the form of a drive-thru. Our new supplier for graduation gear is Herf Jones, and they have some really stylish designs that all seniors should really check out. And we all know that our amazing new aquatic center was completed, but here there were some small finishing touches that needed to be added. The most notable of these is the new windscreen. The windscreen that reads Los Alamitos Aquatic Center was donated to us by the company that built our pool. This screen adds the perfect touch of Los Al to our brand new aquatic center. And because most of us haven't been at school lately, you might have forgotten about all the construction that is quite literally underway. What once was the front building now looks more like an archaeological dig site. All of the underground work is completed, and the trenching is still ongoing. The next step is to install the 50-foot tall footings. Try saying that 5 times fast. Also, we're still on course for our return to school on September 29th, and the cohorts that students will be in will be released tomorrow. And while I understand that you have all been working diligently on this no doubt challenging task, I would like to express some concerns that students have brought to my attention about the method used in the selection of these cohorts. And although this may not be a very popular topic of discussion, I would not be fulfilling my duties as a student representative to the board if I did not bring forth these concerns. Students fear the randomized selection of cohorts does not take into consideration those who have jobs after school, the students whose parents are their only mode of transportation, or the students who simply have other obligations that interfere with their assigned cohort. Once again, I would like to reiterate that we, as students, completely understand how challenging the preparation and planning for the reopening of school has been with all of you, and with this in mind, we simply ask that if a student requests a change of cohort, that you would all encourage administrators to be flexible with allowing a student to switch groups to better accommodate their schedule. Before I move on, I would just like to say that as the first ever student rep to serve through a global pandemic, I feel obligated to help my peers in any way I can, and I thank you for listening to our concerns. And now a little shift of gears. I'm extremely excited to announce that I will be including a student spotlight in every one of my presentations. For each spotlight, I will introduce you all to a new Griffin who has a unique hobby or activity that they picked up during quarantine. Without further ado, I am beyond proud to introduce all of you to a good friend of mine and our first student spotlight, Caitlin Lowe. Caitlin is a junior at Los Al, and during quarantine, she started a watercolor painting business. She sold her incredible paintings for $30 each and made a profit of $420. But she didn't just stop there. Ms. Lowe then donated all of her earnings to the Los Al Food Services program for those who couldn't afford their meals. Hats off to you, Caitlin. I really look forward to introducing you all to many more Griffins like Caitlin because as a student myself, I find it inspiring to see my fellow peers making a positive impact in their community. My hope is that these student spotlights will encourage others to try something new or step out of their comfort zones as well. And if anyone watching or listening to this knows someone with a unique hobby or activity, feel free to reach out to me. I can showcase their skills. And that concludes my report. Thank you and have a great night.
Thank you, Nico. That was, the student spotlight is fabulous. Thank you so much for thinking of that. And we do appreciate you bringing the students' viewpoint to us. And I am sure that administration was listening to that request, and they will take care of however they can. Thank you so much. And now we're on to our superintendent's report.
Yes, thank you, Nico. It's nice to see you up here on the dais as well. We wanted to make more room for people in the audience. And with Mr. Boyer zooming in today, it afforded that. I think the cohort selection obviously has probably been something that has been a challenge for different families, and we certainly understand that for students as well. There aren't necessarily easy answers. There are and trade-offs really in trying to ensure balanced between our classes across 6 different periods. You might have balance in period 1, and then all of a sudden in period 2, because they're not the same group of kids that go from period 1 to period 2. And so that really does become a challenge when you're also trying to navigate a very difficult pandemic. With a lot of different guidelines. So, Madam President, esteemed members of the board, members of our community, I'm pleased to report tonight. For some of you who did not maybe have an opportunity to listen to the workshop where we updated a little bit on our school opening plan, I will add some aspects of that, but otherwise was mostly going to be focusing my superintendent's report on how the hybrid implementation has moved forward, starting off today at both Oak Middle School and McAuliffe Middle School. And so we'll dive right in. But from our last board meeting, one of the things that we have really used this philosophy of having our staggered approach to how we unfold in the hybrid implementation. And one of the things early on with our elementary, we learned a few things. The desk shields that we had purchased really does create a visibility aspect. And while we thought it might have some other benefits, that there'd be less touch areas to have to clean, we really listened to our teachers who were already working with these, who said they would benefit greatly from having clear sides on all of their desk shields. I just want to remind, when we look at purchasing these, this was the end of June-ish. And at that time, there were less options, and there was a 6 to 8 week lag time, thinking that we were going to be opening up schools on August 31st. So obviously a lot changed over the summer, and now these were available locally right here in Orange County, and so we were able to secure and purchase these. And already these are our classrooms. The first one is a kindergarten classroom at the top, and the 2 on the bottom are just from today, from our middle school, one at Oak and one at McAuliffe Middle School. So we're pleased for that, but mostly I know really responding to the needs that teachers have communicated and what a difference that has made, and certainly our principals have as well. And so one of the things that we've continued to say, and sometimes it feels like it might be a broken record, but really we are not the public health experts. And so as we look to create plans to return students to school or have any type of in-person instruction, we really lean on our public health experts. And here in the state of California, we are, as a school district, mandated to follow the California Department of Public Health industry guidance. There has been at times in different meetings I've had with parents or even other venues where they wonder, or staff, people sometimes want us to pick and choose, follow CDC here, follow CDPH here, follow some American Pediatrics here, et cetera. And we are guided by California Department of Public Health. They have indicated that we are mandated to, whenever there are inconsistencies, to follow their guidance. And so our industry and attestation and our school opening plan is completely aligned to that. Along with Orange County Healthcare Agency. Orange County Healthcare Agency really is the resource team for us. They have an emergency COVID response team that assists for school administrators when we do have someone test positive, or we have questions, or if we have questions about the plan or how to interpret some of the school guidance. We certainly look to the Orange County Healthcare Agency, who then follows it up the command as well. And so one of the things that from our last meeting, we had shared, we were opening our elementary schools under the elementary waiver. And I think there's some misconception there that some people I think one of the things we found in COVID is everything, either people celebrate you or get frustrated with you or complain. And so this really is a divisive aspect. And so they think that we were trying to be number one in the county in terms of opening up our schools. And I don't think that could be further from the truth. Really, our goal was to be able to respond to teachers and how they viewed we open up schools. We met with every single elementary teacher before we decided if we were going to apply for the waiver. We met with them, gave them a lot of information, allowed them some time to think about it, sent out a survey. And of those teachers who were already selected to teach the in-person model, 68% of them encouraged us or said they supported the district moving forward with applying for the CDPH elementary waiver. And so if we did not have our teacher support, we would not have done that. It was not a goal of us to be the number one or the first school district in the county to be open up. It was a goal to meet the needs of our teachers who communicated that with us. Since then, Orange County is off the watch list, what used to be called the watch list. It's now the purple. We're now on the red, and they've been in the red tier for over 14 days, which is why both Oak and McAuliffe could open up today. Interestingly, many industries didn't have to wait 14 days to open up. Movie theaters, you would think, might have to wait a little bit longer. They got to open up right on the first day that the county was in the red. Restaurants, etc. But we did end up having to wait 14 days. And our approach continues to be, I believe, cautious and staggered. So when the county comes off of and comes into the red for 14 days, we are really cleared to be able to open up 5 days traditional. We have chosen not to do that. We have chosen to do a cautious approach to open up in a hybrid, knowing that we have a large number of students at various schools, passing periods, et cetera. And so we really are trying to be cautious in this approach by opening up in a hybrid. Today, daily, I just thought I'd give you a screenshot of what the Orange County dashboard. So a lot of parents and staff since the summer have asked, where do we get the data? How do we monitor it, et cetera? And so you can see that the data in Orange County continues its decline in the right direction. It is now both metrics, the case positive rate per 100,000 and the testing positivity percent, as of today, meet the threshold for the next lower tier. Now, remember, it takes 14 days to be able to move out of a tier. This is the first day that has occurred, so I'm not making any predictions there. But I am showing that our data continues in the county to move in the right direction, which is the way we would all want it. In fact, several parents have reached out to all of you, but also myself the past couple of weeks, who are also monitoring this data, and have shared that this data is much lower than back in August when they were asked to decide if they wanted to be in person or if they wanted to be low-sal at home. And so our data rates continue. The other nice thing is the county does provide case rate data by zip code as well, and they update that weekly. They update it on Tuesdays. So they will give us, you can take a look at what is the case rates by zip code. We are not in a hotspot area traditionally as some of the other areas. However, Los Al is starting to see an uptake, but as we reach out and consult with the public health care agency, they largely attribute that to the skilled nursing home, which I won't say the name because I don't want to, but locally. In Seal Beach, I think the last data that just came out today, it might have even been 0. Now, they use a 7-day average with a 7-day lag as the way that they report it. So the county certainly is moving in the right direction. This is a data point that we continue to monitor, and this is something we would look at. Should our rates in the county and also within our school system rise, that would certainly cause us to pause to take consideration. Should we pivot back into distance learning or not move out of the hybrid, et cetera? So this will be a continued data point that we take a look at. And so this afternoon, we did give an update on our opening and safety plan. We gave it last week as well at our last board meeting of some of the changes to the 6-12 hybrid. And just some questions continue to arise about how are we engaging in this process in planning and preparation, how do we engage staff, et cetera. So I thought I would pull some of the aspects from the workshop just to highlight a bit more. So just to remind everyone, we released our school opening plan in July. Now, mind you, it was the end of July because we spent most of the summer with 70 plus stakeholders, mostly teacher leaders and administrators in probably 30 plus meetings. And if we now count the ones after school have started, which have been ongoing because this is a fluid process, probably well over 40 to 50 meetings. So really a strong collaborative process as we created our school safety opening plan. It is aligned to the California Department of Public Health, as I shared earlier. And it is a fluid document. The document has been updated several times. When you see it on our website, right down underneath the logo, you will see when it has been updated, and we just updated it today. Those in the room may not be able to see it because we can see Mr. Boyers from the Zoom, but you'll see we did update it. So it is on our website at all times, and you'll have the latest and the most current revisions are located in the plan. And one of the things we made sure of, that we spent the bulk of the summer with so many different stakeholders to help us create this, was so that we could be nimble and adapt along the road as conditions change. And one thing we know for sure, the conditions have changed even since we were doing the planning. And so we really developed 3 contingency schedules outside of LoSal at Home, which LoSal at Home, we afforded all parents and families the option to have a full-time virtual program, or to have a in-person option or a pathway that could lead to that. And so in our traditional pathway, we have 3 settings that could occur: distance learning, hybrid, and traditional learning. And the focus I'm going to be focused on today is the work that we've been doing the past several weeks and ongoingly to focus on our hybrid implementation at our secondary schools, because we already focused on how we did that at our elementary at our last board meeting. Today, we had the pleasure of being able to welcome our Oak Lions and our McAuliffe Eagles back to school today. It was a joyful day for many. I can't tell you, I was fortunate to be at Oak. We all on Cabinet were assigned to work at different school sites. And the accolades and the thank yous from parents were unending, and students today. Just thanking all of us, Mrs. Kaminsky, because again, we were at Oak, and our teams for being able to provide this opportunity for students in a safe and approachable way. Our high school implementation starts next Tuesday, September 29th, and I know many of our students and our families are also very much looking forward to the opportunity for their students to return to some form of in-person instruction at Los Alamitos High School. So just a quick overview of the hybrid. It is a blended model of in-person and distance learning. We have tried to create the cohorts to have a 50% traditional class size. As you navigate that throughout periods, it doesn't become exactly 50%. We did separate them into 2 cohorts in an AM and a PM model. And students learn on campus 4 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. With our update we did on the plan, as we updated the board, we would likely be doing last board meeting that Wednesday now for our 612s will be distance learning all the time. And so our CDPH guidelines are followed. In that, all of our staff and students at our secondary schools are required to wear facial coverings, that we have 6 feet of distance between staff desk and student desk, that we maximize the space of students' desks. And there was a lot of rumors going out there in the community before, probably a couple of weeks ago, that said all of a sudden we weren't going to be using desk shields, which I'm not sure where they came up with that rumor. That is inaccurate. All of our classrooms will have the desk shields. We have new clear desk shields as well. And then the symptom screening and temperature checking will be done as students come into their first period or their first class for the day. It will be contactless, and there's talking about the clear desk shields. There's just another example from our middle school today. So we have updated our hybrid schedules. As alluded to earlier, the schedules really are aligned where they were mostly since the plan has been released, with that other than the exception of the change to Wednesday. Prior, on Wednesday, we had it alternating every other week. Cohort A would come in, or Cohort B on the opposite Wednesday. And after ongoing feedback from teacher leaders and groups, they provided input and asked that we consider making Wednesday a fully virtual program, simply so that our students would be able to have 3 opportunities to have live instruction, either live in person or live via distance learning with their classroom teacher. And we brought that back to our committee. The committee overwhelmingly supported it, and we went ahead and implemented that as well. So if that is one of the changes that has been there, you can see our updated hybrid schedules for the middle school and for the high school on page 8. So some of the things that we've been doing certainly are some of the stuff that we learned along the way with elementary. And one of the things that with with where the plans get different is we have a district-wide opening plan, but there are a lot of nuances that have to take into account at each individual school site in terms of where students and visitors queue, how do we keep physical distancing, how do you have directional arrows in the flow of traffic, the designated drop-off and pick-off locations that really discourage large gatherings, using multiple gates, sometimes assigning gates by alphabet so that people know where to go and to limit the crowd coming through. Our directional hallways and passageways for foot traffic, even at passing periods. We've extended the passing periods at our secondary schools. At middle school, it is 7 minutes, which we'll talk in a little bit later. And at the high school, it is a 10-minute passing period. We've ordered over 400 signs across our school sites at 612. That is not necessarily including all the painted signs that you'll see in a little bit in these ongoing planning measures. And then another thing that we've continued to do is engage teachers and site staff to identify potential areas of congestion and/or areas requiring district staff or supervision during passing periods. So I know even after our last board meeting, one of the things we wanted to make sure, we asked the high school staff to reach out to teachers in each building to find out, hey, get some areas that they believe that might be some trouble spots, things that we need to think about if we had not already thought of collaboratively already. And those have been ongoing. They created Google Forms where people could give their input back. And then we've assigned members of cabinet to really be a district liaison so that the principal really has to only have maybe a daily check-in with one person, and then the rest of cabinet is really facilitating that. And so at our middle schools, we had Mrs. Davis, who was the cabinet liaison for Oak Middle School. We had Dr. Jerry Friedman, who was at McAuliffe, and it's Mrs. Reed and Dr. Frazier at Los Alamitos High School. All cabinet is supporting it, but it's just so that the principal is not having to contact 10, 12 people along the way, which we'll give you an example. These are just some of the ways that we are showing some of the directional arrows. This is at our middle schools. You can see we're not using lockers during the hybrid, nor are we using PE lockers. With stairwells, we've clearly identified that there are single directional areas. So then this is the building at McAuliffe that has the stairwell that is going down only. And with middle school, and then I think with high school as well, sometimes trying to find ways to kind of connect kids to think about social distancing in a more catchy way. So even be smart, stay 6 feet apart. Or I saw another one that the McAuliffe had used for sure. They said they got it from the high school as well. Something like a good neighbor, stay over there. Kind of a play on some of the commercials to kind of continue to try to encourage students to have social distancing. So the signage is both directional and also educational. As I alluded to earlier, we created a opening checklist that we would work with sites on an ongoing basis. This checklist is probably 8-9 pages now, so you're only seeing a snapshot of some things. And the liaison is updating the school site and cabinet on a daily basis. Where are we with making sure that every classroom has the thermometers, with the disposable mask, with the door symptoms checks, with the sanitation, with directional signs, et cetera. And so that is something that we do ongoing. We have daily conversations with the principal as we're unfolding. We're checking to make sure that all of the PPE supplies have been delivered to the classrooms, to the school sites, to the various locations. And if we're missing, how many and of what, whether the hand washing stations have come in yet, and if they have, where are they located on the campus? Where are we locating them on the map? Do we have the isolation areas as the signs? Do we have cots for the isolation areas as well? Where have the shade structures been? Have they been built? Have they been resurrected? How many more need to be added? The water bottle filling stations, because most of trying to find ways that students can still have access to water, but also be safe. So how many water bottle filling stations have been installed across the campus, and where? Have we sent the bell schedule to IT? Is there anything more nuanced with the bell schedules that need to be with different tones, which we'll allude to a little bit later? Passing period supervision schedules or cohort supervision schedules that we learned at the elementary, gate supervision, start, et cetera. So this is just giving you some examples of some of the things that we've been doing with this checklist, and then continue to provide an update of where we are along the way that every cabinet member gets, so we know how we can help continue to support it. As I alluded to earlier, we are using extended passing periods at our secondary schools and adding additional bells and tones to initiate directional traffic at our secondary sites. At a middle school, it's 7 minutes, and at the high school, it's 10 minutes. And a lot of that is because it may take some time for them to, they're used to being able to cut across in one area, and now they actually have to follow a clockwise pattern. Or at the high school, due to construction and near the PAC, we might need to close off that area because it's not going to be wide enough to have fluid areas or things of that sort. Another example that certainly we've heard and of an interest of concern for us as well is the 700 building and how we can successfully navigate through that. And so students will enter the 700 building. That's the two-story building at the Los Alamitos High School. It's the round and the rectangular building. They'll enter through this center stairwell area. They'll exit primarily using the exits on the far north and south ends of the building. There'll be 2 dismissal bells, and the nice thing that we know is if there are any changes, we can make changes along the way. So the current plan is to have 2 dismissal bells at the end of each period where they'll be staggered, where the first bell will ring a minute early to allow students on the west side of the building to exit to kind of decrease the traffic there. And then the regular bell will have a different tone than the pre-bell will ring in at the regular time, and then all students on the east side of that building will exit. So again, trying to stagger when they enter and exit that building, or when they exit. And then identified 3 exceptions to that location. In room 700, 701, and 755, they're going to exit out the center stairwell at the very first bell to further mitigate some of the congestion aspects. All of this is in addition to signage, and the exit and entrances are going to be supervised by staff and direct students. We have deployed cabinet at every school site the first week that they open up. So at Oak and McAuliffe, we divided that up. At the high school, they'll have the gift of all 10 of us, plus all our counselors, our psychologists, our campus supervisors, et cetera, to really help until students get used to how to navigate through each individual area. Our principals have done great jobs educating our families before they open up in the hybrid. This started with our elementary, and then our middle schools have carried on with it. And I know Dr. Stone and his team is going to be doing that at Los Alamitos High School, where we created coffee chats or YouTube live sessions to kind of go over the plan, videos. I know ASB might even be looking at creating some videos for students to how to educate them on how to exit this building appropriately and safely. We offered the PowerPoint presentations, et cetera, for families. We opened up our campuses on the weekends. We found this really successful at elementary, continuing at the middle school. So because we limit the visitors on the outside, families could come in before school starts, kind of walk the campus with their students or with their children over the weekend. And we even had some at Oak and McAuliffe do it yesterday after the distance learning, so after 12 o'clock, come on back onto the campus to take a look at how do they navigate across the campus. So we're making sure we distribute and implement and replenish protocols for all supplies in classrooms. This was the COVID-19 classroom supplies that we had for elementary. We actually had to update that for secondary because we quickly saw at elementary the way that we were going to be cleaning the desks with the monofoil disinfectant spray and wiping it between will not be efficient at our middle schools. And so we will be using much more alcohol wipes that you see there. We've created custodial checklists that'll be posted in every classroom so teachers and those identified in the room will clearly know if their room has been cleaned appropriately. And so that will be there. There's a little sample of what that checklist will look like. Additionally, we do have some shared responsibility at 612. It is different at 612 than it is at K5 to a small degree. Mostly we're asking teachers to really manage the desk shield use and try to encourage and educate students to minimize unnecessary touching of the vision screen on those desk shields, that they monitor the hand sanitizer use to make sure every student uses the hand sanitizer as they enter the classroom, that the students grab an alcohol wipe as they come in. And they'll be cleaning off their desk area. They can grab 2 if they need as well, depending. And then really to be able to maintain clear and clutter-free surfaces as our custodial crew will go in nightly for disinfecting and cleaning. And as they use the electrostatic spray guns with the disinfectant spray, they're going to want to make sure they're not spraying over paper or materials that maybe a teacher wanted to be able to have that they left out. So the student's responsibility as they come into the classroom, they'll use the alcohol wipes to sanitize the personal desk and the desk shield. They'll use hand sanitizer after sanitizing the desk and the desk shield every period. And quickly, we, as Mrs. Reed shared this afternoon, that Oak and McAuliffe's teachers shared that after first period, our students knew exactly what to do in the following period. So really just teaching our students one period seemed to do the trick. I forgot to mention under the teacher responsibilities, the other responsibility they have is they will be, through a contactless way, checking the temperature of students as they enter into their first period for the first class of the day. Then our custodial responsibilities, they're going to perform, for the most part, their normal custodial duties. We've had to modify some of that to ensure that the sanitation and cleanliness could occur each night. They'll do nightly cleaning and disinfecting of each classroom used by students and staff with the electrostatic gun and the EPA certified disinfectant. Refill and restock each classroom's COVID-19 supplies and clean and disinfect desk shields. This is also a shared responsibility of all staff. I shared earlier today as well how just being at Oak, I loved watching our campus supervisor. And she, seems like everywhere she walked, she happened to have a bottle of the disinfectant spray and a wipe. And she was wiping down touched areas of gates and door wells, et cetera, as she was just walking around the campus of the high frequency touched areas. So it really is something that all of us are coming together to really ensure the health and safety for our staff and for our students. And ventilation continues to be an area that has been communicated to us with concerns, particularly at Los Alamitos High School, but really something that we should focus in on all areas. And so I wanted to kind of lean in a little bit more on what are the recommendations by the California Department of Public Health in terms of ventilation and what we have been doing and continue to do to make enhancements to this. So when you look at the PowerPoint, anything in black is really almost a direct quote from the California Department of Public Health guidance specifically for schools when it's talking about ventilation. And then in blue is what we as a district have been doing and will continue to do. So the recommendation is to introduce fresh air as much as possible, for example, by opening windows and doors where practicable, and we have and continue to make our recommendation to all staff to leave doors and windows open during instructional hours. This is contrary to how we advised staff prior when we talked about safety reasons for active violent intruder or even just running air conditioning and cooling the outside instead of cooling the air inside. This is the time where we want all the doors and windows open on an ongoing basis. So we've been able to check that recommendation as well. The other recommendation is when cleaning the classrooms is that you make sure you air out the space before children arrive and you plan to do a thorough cleaning when students are not present. And that's why the electrostatic cleaning is really done at night and some of the other cleaning. So our deep cleaning and disinfecting is happening nightly when students are not present. The other ventilation recommendations, if you're using air conditioning, use the setting that brings in outside air. And so all of our district HVAC systems do bring in outside air. And then to replace and check air filters and filtration systems to ensure optimal air quality. Our district HVAC systems have been serviced. Our filters have been changed to the highest possible filtration for each unit. And as you can imagine, across our campuses, our units, our HVAC units differ in their age span in which they are, if they're a portable building, if they're a centralized system, et cetera. And then they do give some additional recommendations if you can't open up windows or doors to increase the air ventilation. And they say, for example, if and I think of it, it doesn't mention it here, but when we had the recent fires and the effect of the pollution there, but even allowing pollen or exacerbating asthma symptoms, then what else could we consider if we can't open the doors if it poses a health risk? So for some, they say then maximize essential air filtration for HVAC systems, targeted filter rating of MERV 13 if you cannot open the doors and windows, to upgrade the building's air filters to the highest efficiency possible. So we have upgraded our HVAC systems to the highest rated filter that the HVAC system can handle. There are times where some systems cannot handle a higher rating. In fact, they could wear out our engineers have told us it could wear out a system in 6 months and null the warranty. So we have to also be mindful of that. To consider installing portable high-efficiency air cleaners or purifiers, really, and they mention HEPA air purifiers. And I'm pleased to announce that we have purchased and we're awaiting the shipment. They shipped out today. They should be received by Friday. High efficiency HEPA air purifiers for every classroom with students present. Now, this isn't just for 612 or just for classrooms that cannot open their classroom windows or doors. This will be for every classroom. So we are pleased about that. Additional enhancement. Another thing that they recommend is to make other modifications to increase the quantity of outside air. So even though we are using air that brings in from our HVAC system outside air, to try to maximize that. And so our HVAC unit fans will run continuously for 2 hours before and after, at a minimum, after school. That is a strong recommendation to help mitigate aspects. And then the other thing that we have taken a look at, while the majority of our classroom buildings across our campuses have a door, a window, or both that they can open up to increase the ventilation, we do have the 700 building at Los Alamitos High School, and at the second story of McAuliffe Middle School, where their doors open to a corridor. They don't, or their windows don't open up to the outside. And so we have made enhancements to the outside airflow to increase the capacity of bringing in the rate of air at most of our units are designed to bring in at about a 10% rate, and we are increasing those dampers to increase the airflow of over to 50%. So that'll increase based upon different formulas they use. We're told anywhere from recirculating the entire room within about a 15 to 20 minute period, depending upon on the average class size or square footage of the classroom. So some questions have been asked about, well, what HEPA air purifiers have we purchased? We did take a look. And it's also nice to collaborate with other districts and to lean on some of the things that either they've done and then learn from them. And so this is an air purifier that we know another district vetted as well. When we looked at the specs, we thought the specs needed to be larger for our size classroom. So we bought the next unit up, which was more expensive, but we wanted to have a unit that could really circulate the air for most of our classrooms are around 900 square feet or more. And so we wanted to make sure for our larger classrooms that the air purifier system we were purchasing could be adequate for that, for an 1,100 square foot space. So the unit includes a HEPA pure filter that they recommend the filter be replaced every 10 to 12 months if the unit is running 24/7. And then the nice thing too, it has a filter indicator light that is on it that'll easily illuminate to identify to staff or any of us should the filter need to be changed. It has a smart sensor technology that automatically adjusts the airflow when it detects allergens and pollutants in the air. And really important to us is, if you probably can't tell right now, it might be hard to hear me through a mask. So imagine teaching in a classroom with a mask as well. That we wanted to make sure it was as quiet of a device as possible, as well as a device that we could get timely. And so we are implementing the CDPH considerations not only just for buildings that do not have access to open a window or a door, but really for our classrooms. So we are leaving our windows and doors open, running our HVAC systems on for 2 hours at a minimum before and after hours. We're keeping our HVAC fans on during school hours, and so many of you may understand this in your own home, that if you set your thermostat for 75 degrees, once it's reached 75 degrees, the unit shuts off until it gets hotter, and then it kicks back on. We're ensuring that our fans are on, that our fans don't shut off, that the fans will continue to ventilate, circle ventilation through that. And so through the ventilation, through open windows and doors, and through the air purifiers, what we're really attempting to do is to increase both horizontal and vertical ventilation throughout our classrooms, making it, enhancing the safety for our students and staff who will be in those classrooms on a routine basis. What I didn't mention, that was another question somebody had asked, is it could circulate the air, these purifiers, twice every hour in an 1,100 square foot room. So the other thing that's been really important, that certainly we have heard from staff, we also have believed in it, the CDPH guidance, while it doesn't require, it recommends that we do employee COVID-19 testing. They use a caveat, they say, to ensure that as long as testing is available, because as you all know earlier, testing availability has been a problem. The county has super testing sites that was available, that they were going to make available for all school districts, so I'm happy to share that. But they had shared with us that they could really only do it on a one-time basis, and it wouldn't be ongoing every 2 months, which is really the recommendation from the California Department of Public Health. And so as we started taking a look at even the time slots through the county super sites, most of them were after school hours, 3, 4 o'clock. And we really wanted our staff to be able to not have to do more of their own time. And so we had been looking for a couple of weeks for a vendor who would be willing to come and be able to test our staff here on site so they don't have to travel anywhere. And we've been able to successfully navigate that. We've contracted with Express Urgent Care. Already, we have tested all of our elementary and our middle schools. The district, actually, we've tested all staff. We tested elementary, middle district, and auxiliary staff last week. We tested Los Alamitos High School staff on Monday. And if anybody missed a date, we have a makeup this Thursday. And then we'll continue this ongoing testing at the schedule that you see there. So it will be updated in our health and safety plan on page 3. To date, so far, all of the tests that we have received notifications, and we received our notifications for elementary and middle school staff, have all come back negative. So that's always a positive sign. We don't have the test results yet back for the tests that went out on Monday. So our Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, Dr. Fraser, and Dr. Friedman, and our Director of Safety and Student Services will supervise and coordinate the contact tracing as well. So when someone does test positive, really, we coordinate the contact tracing, whether it's a student or whether it's a staff member, through the Orange County Healthcare Agency. Orange County Healthcare Agency has a emergency school response team you've heard me talk about earlier, and they will make sure that they will support us as we do the contact tracing, and they provide the letters for us. They really have identified that they'll issue us 2 types of letters depending upon the risk exposure of the individual in that process. So if an employee or a student tests positive, they will be asked to be sent home and directed not to return to the site. The Orange County Healthcare Agency is notified, and they communicate with the employee. You can fill in the blank here with the word student if it was a student as well. And then they have 2 different ways. So again, the primary concern is a close contact, and that close contact is someone, if you've been less than 6 feet away from them, and they've for more than 15 minutes. And so individuals will be identified, notified, and instructed to go get their own test and to quarantine for 14 days if they were a close contact to someone who tested positive. And then in probably more cases, it'll be individuals who might have interacted at a lesser level. They might be a low risk. Let's say that we were in the classroom, and that was one of the questions teachers asked, which I alluded to answered last board meeting, that all staff would, if you had a student in your classroom identified, you would know if the students would also be identified if they were in a classroom with someone who tested, even if they were more than 6 feet and didn't spend more than 15 minutes with 6 feet apart. So they have different levels of that through the contact tracing aspects of that as well. And then what I really wanted to just celebrate and honor and recognize is the successful opening of our middle schools that happened today. And that would not have been possible without the immense planning that first and foremost occurred over the summer and then ongoingly until where we are today of all staff really kind of coming together on that. So we continue to share out this shared responsibility. Every night or every morning before school starts, families who are returning to in-person will get an email from us reminding them, hey, do not send your child to school today if they have any of these symptoms. If a student becomes ill while at school, the parents and guardians are expected to pick up the student immediately. And then as we've shared, this is just an example of the map that Oak Middle School created for all the directional traffic. And it might look a little bit more confusing on this map because it's a pretty small map. But And this is something that our principals have communicated out to families. They held the coffee chats and then videotaped them for our families. And students use different gates for arrival and departure. That was just this morning, handing out as students were waiting. We're giving them a pump of hand sanitizer. They used markings and social distancing. We also said that if you're a sibling and you reside in the same house, you can stand together. So even I had 2 kids coming up today, and they were really close to each other. I said, "Are you guys siblings?" "Yes." I said, "Okay." Otherwise, we were going to ask them to spread apart. And then the students wait outside, and we only open up the gates till 10 minutes before the period. So they're not congregating or hanging out or playing on the blacktop areas if it was elementary, or just hanging out in the quad. They're going straight to their classroom. This will just give you some more areas of the campus waiting areas or the social distancing markers, which easily identify where they stand as they're waiting to come in or to get picked up. And then as they come into the classroom, the teachers will greet the students at the door. They have a checklist there. They're asking some of the same questions we asked families in the email about are they experiencing any symptoms. We have a contactless temperature screening before entering the room. You can either do the temperature at the forehead or along the wrist. It does not require the teacher to touch the student at all, and you can see how far away they can be from them. And then students proceed. They'll go and they'll grab an alcohol wipe. They'll go to their assigned seat and wipe down the area that they're sitting at, and then sanitize their hands and dispose of the wipe. We've also set up additional outdoor spaces that can convert classrooms for overhang. If some of our classrooms at some schools have overhang, so they can use the overhang. They can use shade structures that are already there, along with the shaded areas around the campus for students to enjoy outdoor learning. When I went back this afternoon at Oak, again, because I've been assigned there, I saw a group of students with their teacher. They were just out on the grass underneath a tree and engaging in a lesson. So it doesn't have to be in one of these shaded structures. It certainly can be in various aspects of the campus. We have ordered additional hand washing stations and the water bottling filling stations there as well. And then, of course, we continue to be able to provide lunch for our families. So we are not serving lunch during the hybrid schedule. That is one of the benefits of the hybrid as well, and the more cautious approach. That lunch pickup is available daily at all school sites. The federal government has extended the waiver, so actually the meals are free. You just need to show your ID card so that we can make sure we have there enough lunch count. We do ask you to pre-order them so that we aren't having extra lunches prepared, but they are free to all students, not just free and reduced. They're available to all students. And as they get dismissed from school, they really end up dismissing very similarly to the way that they entered. They should be dismissed to the same gate they came in so that we can really stagger and diffuse the population there. And then parents are encouraged to maybe plan a meeting place with their kids because the congestion of traffic can get heavy. Ask them not to stand along the gates as we want to ensure students are able to exit safely. Our parents have been amazing. They have followed all the guidelines. Our students have all worn masks. We have extra masks should someone forget. And so we just hand them right at the gate. And then I just want to remind our families to make sure we drive safely, that we're good neighbors it's not easy being a house right near a school with the traffic or with people blocking your driveway or on trash day. So just be a good neighbor. Watch for pedestrians. Today we see people walking and riding their bikes, which is a great way to get to school as well. Follow the speed limits in the community. And I have to say, so today obviously it was the first day, and at the end of the day it was at Oak, and a teacher came up to us, myself, Mrs. Kaminsky, and he probably talked to us for about 10 minutes or so. And he just really shared how impressed he was with the plan that we had laid out for it. He said, I have to admit, I was scared. I was a little nervous to see how this would come about. But wow, this was smooth. It was really impressive. All the planning, all the time and attention that you have done. And it's not you, it's really a team effort. It's not me, but I just happened to be there when he was talking about it. He said, I was super impressed. I'm not nervous anymore. Our students have been great. We're going to get through this process. The way that you've dispersed kids and having different ways for them to come onto the campus, the passing periods were not an issue because we also had staff trying to help navigate them along the way. And so that was not lost lost on me that I do know that at times people do get nervous before they actually see it and then come into play. And so for this teacher to acknowledge that, I thought was really apropos right before I got to be able to share tonight. So I wanted to announce that. And then just our middle school principals and team really sent some pictures of what the first day looked like today. And so our communications TOSA, Bob Osman, even though he's traveling for family related reasons, he was able to formulate just a short video to have us show what our hybrid looked like today at Oak and McAuliffe. So truly something that we continue to say is we are better together. We could not have come up with this plan without the robust input of our teachers, of our administrators, of cabinet really, and of our facilities, our custodial crew who have really made this possible, people working long hours and extra hours to ensure that everything is in place, even on weekends, all to the benefit of our students and staff. And one of the things that is fitting is that we found as we start on a Tuesday now at Oak and McAuliffe, and next Tuesday at Los Alamitos High School, and then the very next day with the new schedule is distance learning. And what's nice about that is one of the things we could take a look at is after we've had our first day with our kiddos at middle school, that we can come together, brainstorm where there's some things we needed to debrief, to make any tweaks, some minor adjustments, that we could make those adjustments on Wednesday during the distance learning and get those implemented and ready for the Thursday that students return. And so we'll be able to exercise that same ability at next week at Los Alamitos High School. And so with that concludes my superintendent's report.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pulver. For sure, it is a fluid document and a fluid process, and we'll continue with the fluidity in the future. The next item on the agenda is a recess, and the reason why we usually take a recess is because we've had maybe a school presentation or honored a particular group of people or an individual. We don't have that now because it's COVID, and we try not to have a lot of people come in, so we're not going to take a recess. So the next item that we're on to is our community and staff participation. I have two things to say. The first is that when a person comes and addresses the board welcomes it, and we like hearing from people. If it is not actually on the agenda for us to discuss, it is illegal for the board to discuss it. It's a violation of the Board Act. Speaking personally, and I think for every board member, you sit here and listen to people and you feel almost like a bump on a log because we're not reacting, and it may look like we're not attending to what people are saying to us. Please know we take notes, we do listen, we take it to heart, but we are following the laws of the state. The second item is that it's our board policy to have 30 minutes for public input. And we usually allow 3 people per person, 3 minutes for each person to speak. I have 22 cards. So what I would like to propose is that we extend the time so that everyone can speak, but ask them to keep it to 2 minutes. Is that?
Could
Yes.
I ask that maybe people try to limit their remarks by not being redundant, in other words, repeating over and over again what other people have said. We have received lots and lots of emails and things, so, we kind of get a message.
Okay, do you want to not extend it for 2 minutes? And if
I
a
didn't
person
say
doesn't
that.
want to use it, they don't have to.
I think some people probably have prepared it to
Right.
speak for 3 minutes. And so if they can cut it short, yes, but I don't know if we should cause them to interrupt their train of thought.
Okay, so you want to keep it at 3 minutes?
Yes.
Okay, this is fine. I'm going to be calling the people out, so you have 3 minutes to speak. There is a timer at the podium, and when your 3 minutes is up, I think it kind of beeps and a red light goes on. Please finish your thought. Do not have to stop, mid-sentence. We don't have a hook. We're not going to drag anybody away. And then the second thing I really have to say is that I mangle names a lot. And so before we're even starting, I want to apologize to anybody whose name I mispronounce. And if you correct me, then I will learn. And if you don't correct me, I'll go on mangling it. So,
Madam President, if I may, we do have a various number of people here present in the boardroom. We also have an overflow room in our trading center with the board meeting being live casted via YouTube. So if there are any other additional people who came and wanted to speak during public comment and you've not filled out a card, to please make sure you fill one out and give it to Tina right here. Tina, raise your hand. And if you are in the overflow room and have not had an opportunity to fill out a card, you may come over and fill it out. And we may need to have some time to if they're over there and they're being called to speak, to give them time to come over.
right. I heard that Dr. Freeman has a list in this order, and I'm not allowed to deviate from this order because
Got
we'll
it.
be
That's
bringing them over.
well planned. That's
Yes,
happy to
someone
hear.
is planning for this, because like I said, we do value public input. But I am going to always have like 2 names so that people who are speaking will know who's the next person up. And after each person who speaks, Mrs. D'Angelo will go up there and sanitize. So it will be a process. Our first speaker tonight is Matt Filler, and then Tracy Vrinsky.
President Catulli, members of the board, Dr. Pulver, I'm Matt Filler, and I'm a candidate for this board in Area 5, Western Seal Beach. But I'm speaking now as a high COVID risk resident and as the grandparent of a mixed race student. First, I'd like to thank Mrs. Russell and the district for the introduction they provided the board candidates. It was very enlightening. I have several points, and I hope those of you who may have differing views will consider how we can get to a situation where everyone feels as safe as you want your children to be. Many parents and students would like to know about the district's response to the series of incidents in which teenagers have been harassing a mixed-race couple in Old Town Seal Beach and damaging their property. We know from press reports the police have contacted the students and their parents, but the incidents seem to be continuing. I hope you can find out if these students are in the district. Minority parents and parents of LGBTQ children presume they engage in similar behavior with their peers. That behavior must not be allowed to happen, and they must be discouraged from that behavior. I'd like to make sure the board is aware that there are social media next door posts by parents seeking out of the district. One started off with how the family had chosen to live in the area because of the schools, and she never thought she'd be seeking a way out. There seem to be 2 main issues: lack of space in after-school daycare and wanting to switch to at-home learning because it seems unsafe or they missed the notice to sign up for that. Responses mostly said what other parents had already done: an interdistrict transfer, several private schools, a pod. Some of these students will not come back when this is over, as they develop friends in their new city or their parents lose trust in the district. The district must do whatever it can to remedy these issues. If the daycare problem is space at particular schools, I suggest busing to sites where space is available, keeping the bus cohorts together in daycare. The district should innovate to find ways to be flexible and accommodate the switches between at-home and hybrid, and vice versa. I hope someone is actively monitoring those requests and looking for solutions on a case-by-case basis. It is also important to update feedback about the likelihood and time the parents may have to wait if they are on the waiting list. You could find a solution for a parent and they've already accepted at another district because they hadn't heard anything. This could lead some parents to putting off changing schools and improve trust. Last but not least, the Orange County Healthcare Agency is today reporting 20 cumulative COVID cases among children aged 0 to 18 who reside in the district, 8 in Los Alamitos and 12 in Seal Beach. That is up by 4 from Thursday when I found this data. There is also a significant outbreak in Los Alamitos with 24 new cases since school opened. That's a case rate of 15 per 100,000 daily over 24 days. That means in the OC Register rankings, Los Alamitos is now tied for 4th among OC cities, and it's over double the state's red tier limit. Now, 17 of those are in nursing homes, but 7 are in the general community. The district, and 2 of them are children. The district needs to know if any of these 4 children and any other recent cases attend the open elementary schools or sports conditioning that is being conducted at the high school and middle schools. The district needs to work with the county healthcare agency team to assess this and should monitor the health department cases database, not just weekly trends. This is already a week-plus delay in these numbers from infections report. Wait another week for plus for data to show up in the averages, and you are steering like the Titanic in the fog. You'll have dozens of cases before you even know it. So I'll try and provide that data to you as I can harvest it. But if you can find out how many of those 20 cases are recent, the only way to find that would be to ask the county, and I'm sure they won't answer to me. They might answer to you. Thank you.
Thank you. And then after Tracy, Carrie Ravello.
Good evening, board, fellow colleagues, parents, and guests. My name is Tracy Rinsky. I'm a LoSal graduate, and this is my 30th year as a teacher at Hopkinton Elementary. I'm also the mother of 2 teenagers in high school at Torrance High. I came to offer some perspective on hybrid teaching. I had the unique opportunity this summer to serve on the reopening task force. Never in my life, much less my career, have I received information at such a firestorm rate. But we took SB 98, the attestation, guidelines from the county, requirements from the state, and we made it our game plan. And we were in the game to win it. Each time we had reached a decision, something would change. We'd lose the ball and get it back. We'd be 3rd down and goal, and the goalpost would move. Then Governor Newsom made his lockdown announcement on July 17th, and we all realized that we weren't even in the same stadium anymore. But each time adjustments were made, proactive measures were put in place, and because of those, we were able to file for the waiver right away when it came to fruition, and thankfully so. I look at my own kids who can't wait to return to a hybrid setting on October 5th. Joey is a senior who runs cross country and track. Kaylee is my sophomore daughter, nicknamed Happy Feet, on varsity soccer, plays club soccer, and also runs cross country. Living with her right now is like trying to drink soda from a bottle that fell down the stairs. They are both conscientious, responsible, straight-A kids, but they aren't happy. The magic of learning isn't there for them. That's why the teachers at my school were so glad to have the kids back on the 8th of September. Has it been challenging? Yes. The students stagger in because they come in by different gates to promote social distancing. They come in masks and stay in them. We temp check, hand sanitize, put up desk shields, everything Dr. Pulver reported. But truly, I feel safer at school right now than I do at Target or Costco. It's been a challenge, but we are really teaching. The magic is back. The hand raising, idea sharing, brainstorming, question asking, eyes sparkling magic that only comes from the classroom. We are happy, parents are happy, and most importantly, our kids are happy. And I did have trepidations about returning for the sake of my health and for the health of my family. But then I considered those who have been called essential workers, healthcare professionals, law enforcement, firefighters, food workers, truckers, and I realized that not many have acknowledged that educators are essential. We just cater to a different population. We are essential, not just for our youth, but for our society. School is where critical thinkers are created, problem solvers are celebrated, where kids learn to dream and achieve, and whereby even maybe one special teacher, kids discover their inner gift that launches them into that career that's going to help them make this world a better place. And boy, do we need that right now. So I leave you with this. We're being watched, and we all need to reopen. We all need to consider ourselves essential and trust that every precaution has been taken to ensure our safety, not just for the sake of our students, but for the sake of our future as a nation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tracy. And after Carrie, we'll have Corey Barrett, excuse me. Barnett. I had it right the first time. Thank you for correcting me.
My name is Carrie Ravello, and I'm here tonight to advocate for what is best for students. To start, this is my 27th year in the district. I chose Los Alamitos because of the small family-like atmosphere. 27 years in, I feel that this district has become family to me. The board members walk through our rooms regularly and are present for school events such as open house and back to school night. Relationships are built and trust is instilled. Not for 1 second have I ever thought that any one of the board members or the district administrators would put students or staff in harm's way. I believe that countless hours have been spent making sure that we have everything we need to deliver curriculum. I believe that countless hours have been spent making sure that sites are provided with the necessary supplies to ensure a safe return for students and staff. I believe that countless hours have been spent listening to our concerns and making the necessary changes. No matter what the cost, no matter the inconvenience, they tirelessly working for the best for our students. I'd like to tell you that my online instruction is amazing, but I would be lying. Online instruction is the pill. I spend each 33-minute lesson watching a good portion of my students struggle with internet connections. They freeze or I freeze, and they miss critical information. Each lesson, students are bumped out of the session, struggle with volume or the ability to access Google Classroom. The kids are frustrated and worried that I'm going to be upset with them when this is totally out of everyone's control. I was at Vaughn's last night, and the bagger was a La Salle student. I asked if he was excited to return to school, and he said, "I literally cannot wait because my sisters and I are going to kill each other." Unfortunately, this same frustration has been happening in my home with my 4 children. Students should be focused on the lesson, not arguing with siblings. We teach because we love our students. The relationships that are established over time are amazing. I speak tonight as a teacher, but I also speak tonight as a mom. My oldest daughter is a Griffin graduate on a water polo scholarship at Concordia. This year, Madison received first-team All-American for her division in water polo. When interviewed last week by Concordia's school newspaper, she answered nearly every single question with gratitude for the lessons she learned in the water in the classroom from Dave Carlson, La Salle history teacher and water polo coach. My 18-year-old son this summer, our family had the opportunity to visit Mount Rushmore. My 18-year-old son immediately was FaceTiming Tammy Siaka to share the special moment. Mrs. Siaka is more than just a teacher to Blake. She is a mother and a mentor and to him, and I am truly grateful. My 15-year-old daughter did not do well with online learning at the close of last year because of missing the close bond she had with her teachers. I could see the depression sink in because she didn't have the clay in Mr. Carthew, the ceramics teacher. I could see the depression sink in because she didn't have Mrs. Jost, who is a perfected master at honors English, nothing short of outstanding. I could see the depression sink in because she didn't have Miss Gahungu that lifts her spirit while making geometry fun. Relationships like this are built in the classroom, not over a computer. We need to do what is best for all students, and what is best for students is to return to school. Thank you. And by the way, my middle schooler went to school for the first time today, and it was awesome.
Thank you, Carrie. And after Corey, we'll have Wendy Hearn.
Good evening. My name is Corey Barnett, and I'm here to speak in favor of in-person learning. I have lived in this community my entire life. I attended Hopkinton Elementary, McAuliffe Middle School, and Los Alamitos High School. Now I am fortunate enough to have the opportunity to raise my family here. I currently have a senior at the high school and an 8th grader at McAuliffe. In addition to my children attending school in the district, my wife and my mother both currently teach in the district as well. People have asked me if I feel it's safe for my children, my wife, and my mother to return to school, and the answer to that question is yes. And here is why. I have had the honor of working as a firefighter paramedic for the last 20 years in one of the busiest departments in the country. In that time, I thought I had seen just about everything imaginable. I was wrong. The last 6 months have been, without a doubt, the most challenging 6 months of my career. When this virus first hit us hard in March and April, my fire department wasn't totally sure what to expect. We weren't completely sure what we were up against. And as the days and the weeks and the months went by, we learned in real time how to care for the public while protecting ourselves in the process. Since then, we have made improvements to personal protection practices. We have learned more about the overall disease and education and awareness. Treatment modalities and increasing testing and tracing have increased as well. And as a result, for the first time, I can now begin to see a light at the end of the tunnel of this pandemic. I say this knowing that this isn't everybody's reality, but it is mine, and it has given me confidence that we will get through this. I know people are scared, and I can respect that. I remember the first confirmed COVID patient I treated at work and how I felt then versus now. It does get better over time, I can tell you that. What I have learned from my experiences working in an environment where COVID is constantly an issue is that this is a virus that we can live with, and it is a virus we no longer need to hide from. If we take the proper precautions and follow the procedures that have been put forth, we can make this a successful and safe return to in-person learning. The procedures that this district has put in place to mitigate the virus spread exceed many of the protocols in place where I work. This isn't to say we aren't prepared where I work. On the contrary, this is a true testament to the commitment the district has made to keep the teachers and students safe. I have seen firsthand what this lockdown is doing to our children and the harm it is causing them socially, psychologically, emotionally, and I can see this at home, I hear it from other parents, and I see it where I work. These kids have been out of school for 6 months. It is time for them to return. Online schooling is a short-term Band-Aid and not a long-term solution. If we don't take the step forward and make an attempt to open now, my question to you is when? When will the numbers be just right or the situation safe enough? The timing will never be perfect or without risk. I was glad to hear that at least 10 districts within this county are slated to open between now and October 20th. I think this is an important step for our children and for our society. Now is the time for us to take the step forward and once again be the leader we have always been as a district and a community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Barnett. And then after Wendy is Pam Simonetti.
Good evening. My name is Wendy Hearn. I live in this district and I have 2 sons, one a 2019 LoSal grad and another currently at LaSalle High. I am also a teacher with 25 years experience, and I am proud to say I love teaching at McAuliffe Middle School. Today was an exciting day, and I would like to thank our district administration, our school board, and our amazing McAuliffe admin team for helping to put so many smiles on faces today. Additionally, I want to thank my students and their parents. First, for me, the smile was on my face, although under a mask, because I had students in my classroom for the first time since March 13th, and it was truly awesome. It was by no means easy to get them there. I think we all can agree that nothing in 2020 has been easy, and we have been working nonstop to get ready for the students' return, but it was worth it in my opinion, and I want to thank all of you up there for working so hard to get us to this point. I also want to thank you for giving all families a choice. Families were able to decide for themselves whether the LoSal at home option was best for their situation or if a return to school was preferable for their family. A little under 1/4 of our families chose the LoSal home ed option. at-home option, and I have the deepest respect for families that chose what option was best for their current situation. In these unprecedented times, giving families a choice was very important, so thank you. Additionally, I want to thank you for giving teachers a choice. All LaSalle teachers were given multiple opportunities to apply to teach for LaSalle at home. And I do appreciate that was an option for anyone who falls within a risk category or has general fear or just had a preference to teach virtually all year. In the end, few teachers chose this option, so many teachers with less seniority who were not originally interested in teaching for LaSalle at home were asked to do so. So I'm standing here today to say thank you, but also to admit to being confused that there is now a push to not start in-person instruction. This push is by a group of teachers who, it is my understanding, chose not to apply to teach for LaSalle at home. They had a choice and chose the in-person route, and yet now they're saying, we are not ready. To those teachers, I say, I am sorry you feel that way, but why did you not apply to teach for LaSalle at home where you would not have students sitting in front of you in your classrooms? I also find it interesting that some of those teachers who are still saying we are not ready are currently sending their own elementary and now middle school age children to our K-8 schools on a daily basis. To those teachers, my question is this: how come it is fine for your child to go to school but not mine? It just doesn't make sense to me, and it seems rather hypocritical. I want to remind everyone that our governor, who prides himself on following the science, has moved the goalposts for returning to school 3 times in the last 5 months, and we have still met all of the requirements to return to in-person instruction. I encourage you to look to Orange County's COVID-19 dashboard, where our numbers continue to improve. To be honest, I seriously debated whether to stand up here tonight and go against colleagues whom I respect but do not agree with. After all, my oldest child received an excellent education at LaSalle and had amazing teachers and a hands-down outstanding counselor, and he is now attending his dream college as a direct result of attending our fantastic schools. I now want our younger son to have that same opportunity and have an in-person education. All I am asking is for you to go forth with the original plan and bring students who chose in-person instruction back to school. Thank you for your efforts and your time and for doing what is best for kids.
Thank you, Wendy. After Pam, we have Carrie McDade. Excuse me, I corrected myself.
My name is Carrie McDade, and I'm an office coordinator at McGaw Elementary School. I felt it was important to speak up regarding your decision to not reinstate the clerical 2 position. Excuse me. At McGaw Elementary School. I feel this cut is a gross underestimation of what is needed to ensure we have sufficient office coverage for the size of a middle school with 750 students, 114 staff, 2 admin, and the largest special ed program in this district. I urge you as elected representatives to represent your constituents, which are your families. I ask that you at least ask for the reasons as to why we are being asked to eliminate office staff at your largest elementary school in the midst of a pandemic. Why are you being told it is not needed? No other school site in this district is losing a clerical 2 position or hours. All other sites were restored. Our workload and responsibilities have only increased due to the pandemic, and this is true at all sites. The front offices are the front lines of our schools. And as Dr. Pulver mentioned last year at our school office coordinators meeting, we are the first responders for our staff, students, and families. It does not make sense to cut your front line or your first responders in time of need. I would hope you would always find safety to be what guides your decisions and not numbers. I appreciate all that you are doing during this difficult time, and I hope you will find a way to do what is in the best interest of our students, our staff, and our parents during this incredibly challenging time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. McDade actually spoke on an item that we do have on the agenda later tonight. We are taking a resolution to bring back 121 more classified employees. Is that number correct or close?
I think that's close. The majority of the positions are being restored, and if they're not being restored, they're being returned at a set amount of hours, but maybe not the fully restored.
Full-time, yeah. We're, when our schools become full-time, then we'll be able to bring more people back for more hours. I appreciate the comments that you have said, and you guys do very important work. Okay, did Pam not come? Pam Simonetti? Okay, I have her card here if she decides to come. Then I would have Paula Grimshaw.
Hello. All right, my name's Pauline Grimshaw. This lovely lady is Stacy Miter. And between the two of us, we make up about 50 years of educating the wonderful students at Los Alamitos High School. We're here to speak with you as veteran teachers, but also as parents of children in the district. We both have high school freshmen as well as 7th grade middle school students. This has been a really difficult time for educators, for parents, for students. Teachers have been working tirelessly in this new environment, and I know parents, you've been agonizing over bringing back your children. And I've heard people before me talking about that we had a choice. The choice wasn't as clear as people have been made to believe. Things were presented to us in an offhanded way to make it very undesirable to choose certain paths. So in that environment, Stacy and I chose for our children to continue on the traditional path. And she and I chose to teach on the hybrid level. We want to be with our students. I crave it. You might see that I love to be out in front of people. I miss my students. I miss hugging them. Yeah, even the high school kids. I miss laughing with them. I did not sign up for this gig to teach through a screen. But reopening schools has to be done in a thoughtful and safe manner. I have heard colleagues before me of students, their children that I've had in my classes, and I want to make sure we do it right. Could you imagine if we open up the school and have to pivot just a couple of weeks later and shut them down again? What would that do to their psyche? On a personal level, my family has some big issues with the shutdown. But dear God, they would have even bigger issues if they had to shut down again. As parents, we've all received the emails. But as teachers in meetings, we've heard other things that were only answered by, I don't know, or we don't have that set up yet, or we'll see. It leads us to wonder, are we rushing to reopen? We are voices to inform the community, for we are your friends. And to paraphrase my favorite president, we must not be enemies. And in our efforts, though they may be strained, when it comes to safe opening of schools, we must appeal to the better angels of our nature. Thank you.
The next speaker then is Aaron. I know it's not Rice. So when Aaron comes in, I'll make sure I find out how to pronounce the name. And then the name after that is Kristen Braithwaite? Braithwaite? Okay. Aaron, how do you pronounce your last name?
It's Ereese.
Ereese, okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Good evening, everyone. Hello, my name is Erin Ereese, and I'm proud to be a LaSalle High School English teacher, a stakeholder in the district, and a parent to children attending our schools. Dr. Pulver, you addressed CDPH guidelines regarding ventilation, which looks to be a new addition to our guidelines. It's an important issue, and I'd like to speak to some of your points. The role of proper classroom ventilation cannot be overstated. For the high school, it's a major concern. Most of our classrooms have no windows. The two-story 700 building at the high school, as Dr. Pulver mentioned, has classrooms completely contained within the building, meaning teachers cannot open their doors and access fresh air. Fresh air, proper ventilation, is concomitant with mask wearing for keeping classrooms safe. Without proper ventilation, physical distancing is a moot point. Aerosol scientists, mechanical engineers, epidemiologists from institutions such as Harvard, Syracuse, MIT, and more agree that proper ventilation allows aerosolized viral particles to disperse. And these experts agree that good ventilation equals 6 fresh air exchanges per hour, which means that the air in an enclosed space is completely replaced with fresh air 6 times an hour. The last time we addressed the air exchange rate, our district's facilities director, CJ Noland, stated that our HVAC systems provide only 1 fresh air exchange every 80 minutes, which is considered to be low ventilation by experts. Dr. Pulver, you indicated that we got some new filters, and I think the teachers would like to know if this information about the 1 exchange rate every 80 minutes is still accurate with this new installation. The bottom line is we need to have verification on the ventilation and filtration performance before some of us feel safe going back to school. Dr. Pulver, you also mentioned the new HEPA filters, and they provide 2 fresh air exchanges every hour, and this does not go far enough. We need to get our air exchange rate to 6 per hour in the classrooms, and we need to be able to verify the rate. We cannot open safely, which we want to do, as Pauline mentioned, and we cannot remain open to serve our students properly until we address this issue and some of the other issues that you'll hear my colleagues speak to tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. After Kristen, I have Rachel Lindahl. And Kristen, please tell me how to pronounce your name.
My name is Kristen Braithwaite.
Braithwaite. Thank you.
Thank you. 8 years ago, I picked up the phone and I called my husband and I said, they hired me. 8 years ago, I picked up the phone, I called my husband and I said, they hired me. I got the job. This was LaSalle. This was the promised land, just teeming with excellence. And for a moment, my phone's still shaking in my hands. I closed my eyes and I pictured myself spending afternoons at my desk grading papers and reflecting on the lessons. And I pictured myself getting up early morning and timing my athletes on the track. And I've spent years at this district really cultivating that reality. And I've been able to see my students within that face-to-face, eye-to-eye, heart-to-heart. COVID-19 has changed all of that. I want nothing more than to get out onto the track, see my kids again, and say, we are gonna have an amazing season, and I am so excited to do this with you. And it also breaks my heart to say, I don't think we are ready for that on September the 29th. Los Alamitos predicates itself on a rich history of student safety. The school board's second priority is ensure an inclusive, safe, healthy, secure, and substance-free environment. This time, I'm asking you to hold true to the priority declared of ensuring that our students will be safe when they come to school. Presently, students are allowed to sit within 6 feet of one another in masks with vents, gaiters, or bandanas, when empirical evidence strongly suggests that this is not only ineffective in slowing the spread of COVID, it hastens it. Per our hybrid schedule, for 50 minutes at a time, potentially less than 6 feet apart, with face coverings that are subpar to what the CDC recommends, students will attend class. In my own classroom, I cannot open a door to get fresh air. I cannot open a window to get fresh air. I cannot protect my students. Los Alamitos Unified does not settle for good. We are great. And we are about kids. Opening our doors on September 29th undermines the very fiber of who we are. John Wooden once asked, if you don't have time to do it right, when are you going to do it over? And we have to do this right. Our kids deserve it. They deserve nothing but the excellence that this district has to offer. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And after Rachel, we'll have Drew Sells, please.
Hi. Okay. Hi, my name is Rachel Lindahl, and I am in my 20th year teaching math at Los Alamitos. I'm here tonight representing the majority of the math department to urge the school board to please delay the reopening of our school. In addition to the aforementioned health and safety concerns, I would like to spotlight curriculum. Throughout my time at Los Al, I have taught all levels of math. Currently, I'm teaching Algebra 2 and AP Statistics. Distance learning has had its challenges. I am, like my colleagues, trying to find all new modalities to get my students engaged and to check for understanding. And you know what? It's actually working. My attendance has been excellent. My engagement, for the most part, has been great, and I have students working and turning in homework at a higher rate than I ever have. Do I like delivering lessons via Google Meets? Absolutely not, but I'm able to do it daily. Since I'm able to see my students every day, I'm able to teach on a pace that I normally do, so I won't have to pick and choose standards to cover. That is especially important for my AP classes since we started 3 weeks later, and I do not have the luxury of slowing down the curriculum since our AP exam is 4 weeks before the end of school. Complete coverage of the curriculum will not be possible with a hybrid model. I don't know if everybody knows, but we go from seeing our students 5 days a week to seeing them 3 times. This is 165 minutes to 132 minutes weekly. That's 33 minutes lost each week in every class. That is 495 minutes total in the semester for every class. And as a math teacher, we like to count days. So with hybrid, instructional days will decrease by 2 days a week, which is 30 days, which is 6 weeks, or really 1/3 of our semester lost. This, of course, does not take into account the instructional minutes lost to taking temperatures and directing students to clean their desks effectively. With a hybrid model, I will be teaching less, will be forced to cut curriculum, and will need to require more independent work from my students, likely in the form of pre-recorded videos or having them streaming during their asynchronous or off-cohort time. Hybrid is not a return to normalcy. Besides the masks, besides the anxiety of catching COVID, the students will be in a distance learning setting. Research has shown that the best practices include activities such as station rotations, small group collaboration, think, pair, share, and none of that can happen in a hybrid classroom. They will be sitting the whole time with no socialization and behind desk shields. They will also be taught at the exact same time as my Los Al at home students, likely doing the exact same thing since I'm live streaming my classes. In closing, I ask, what is the cost of sending students back to the classroom in a hybrid setting? It will cost them meaningful instruction time. It will cost them depth of understanding for future classes, and ultimately, it will cost them college preparedness. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. And after Drew, we'll have Laura Anderson, please. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Drew Sells, and
Pull it
I'm
up.
a parent.
Yeah, pull it up. Pull it up.
I've had troubles with this mic in the past, haven't I? My name is Drew Sells, and I'm a parent of a junior and an 8th grader, as well as a coach and a teacher at Los Al High School, in addition to being married to an ICU nurse who has been knee-deep in COVID most of this year. I've been lucky enough to teach biology in the what we are starting to call the Petri dish, the 700s building, for about the last 7 years. I've spoken to numerous parents lately, and a number of them have emailed me asking me, how in the world is it that you expect to open so soon? How is this possible? And my only response to them is that I'm not sure. I don't quite understand how it's possible, given the things that I know. And so one of the things that I want to share with parents that I do know is that the room that I teach in all of the rooms in the 700s building, are about 960 to 1,000 square feet. If I had to guess, this room is somewhere in the 3,500 to 4,000 square foot zone. This room right now is holding 26 people. And from my understanding, we are going to be expected to keep social distance, which is going to be a physical impossibility, in a room that's 960 square feet, with as many as 20, 23-ish students, from what I'm understanding. And this is due in part because, not through anybody's fault, it's through trying to actually bend over backwards to take care of our constituents and all of our people who would like to come to school at our schools. It's impossible to do an A, a B, and this at-home scheduling and not end up with really strange numbers of students in classrooms. So I'm asking you, how do we take this many people and stick them in a classroom my size that has bad ventilation, a mask policy that's very suspicious, that even as of right now is allowing people to have vents in them, and stick them in a room where we're calling that safe? So as a parent and as a teacher, I have no idea how to answer that question in a way that makes anyone feel good. So I'd also like to address a couple things that have become apparent today. Mostly the difference between the elementary schools and the high schools, and even the middle schools. I will tell you, my son came home today. He's happy as could be to be back at school, which I am stoked to hear, and I was really happy to see Ms. Kaminsky's pictures. They look beautiful. But guess what? Oak's been remodeled. His classrooms are bigger than mine. They have kids who are complying with their masks and will comply with their masks. We're not in that situation at the high school. So I ask you again, how is this going to be possible and safe? Last little point that I'd like to make is that the cohorts that a lot of the people who were talking earlier, who teach in elementary school, are substantially different by a factor of 10 than the ones that we have at the high school. When you're teaching at an elementary school level, you have a cohort of 12 to 16 kids. They stick together the whole time. They play together in the recess together. They do nothing where they're going to cross-pollinate. They don't even switch rooms ever. Every single student on our campus switches rooms every single period. So when you're talking 12 to 16 in your cohort, at a high school, we're talking 1,200 to 1,600 in your cohort. Let's think about the math on that one before we start opening up, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Drew. Then Laura, and then Maria Kibton. I know I killed Maria's last name. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Laura.
Good evening, Board of Education and Cabinet members. My name is Laura Anderson, and I am a teacher at Los Alamitos High School. I would like to share the concerns of fellow colleagues, parents, and myself. During the summer, teachers applied for the Los Al at Home program. However, a week before school started, many teachers were assigned to online classes without having applied, in addition to their traditional classes. And the teachers that did apply were not given the all online classes. Some teachers were asked if they would be willing to teach both models, and some were not asked. Regardless, many teachers agreed to participate in Los Al at Home classes to help during these difficult times. However, due to the late notice of teaching assignments, there was little to no preparation time for students or teachers. Teachers understand that these are unprecedented times, which is why they agreed to teach online classes. but they would also like the same understanding in return from the district when it comes to planning, preparation, and safety. We have received very little support on how to assess online students effectively and much less how to manage the hybrid situation of dealing with in-person students and LaSalle at home students at the same time. In-person and online during the hybrid model are two separate classes entirely. Teachers are not at all prepared to manage or carry out this type of work and workload. No professional development has been given on how to manage these two types of classes. The only professional development we have received was on schools PLP, which has now been discontinued, and tech help with Google Meet and Google Classroom. This does not address the issue of how to live stream an online class while tending to a physical audience and assigning synchronous and asynchronous work, videos, etc. We want to be back in the classroom, but need adequate time and training to prepare for the inconsistencies. Another concern we have when returning to the hybrid model is that the LaSalle at home students will not receive personal attention from their teacher. And are parents aware of all of the changes that will occur for the LaSalle at home students? There will be TAs in the classroom to help out with LaSalle at home students, but the teachers will not be able to tend to the LaSalle at home students while teaching to in-person students. Also, teachers cannot expect high school students to be responsible for another student's education. Are the TAs trained to troubleshoot if there are any technical difficulty? If something inappropriate were to happen, which it has, during the live stream of an online class, are TAs trained to handle this as well? Teachers should not be held accountable for something that is out of their control. It is not fair for the LaSalle at-home students to not have the same education and attention as the other students. In addition, parents chose LaSalle at home to provide their children stability and to not have to deal with the changing schedules and different cohorts. But this is exactly what is going to happen. We want to be back in the classroom, but only when we can ensure the utmost safety for all stakeholders and be able to provide the high standard of education that our students deserve. I am a lifelong LaSalle community member. I grew up attending this district, graduated from LaSalle High School, raised my daughter in this district, and now I'm a teacher serving the students and families of this community. LaSalle has played a huge role in my life, which is why I don't want to see this district fail its staff and community with hasty decisions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Laura. Then we have Maria, and then we have Cynthia Avina. Next time, I have really funny handwriting, but if the person could either write in larger letters when filling out all these names, I'd feel like I'm not killing everyone's last name. All written by the same person. Same person filled them out.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Maria Kiptia. You might recognize me as the girls' head tennis coach, the Model United Nations advisor, one half of the Guam team, an AP teacher, and a co-teacher. I'm here today on behalf of about 1,000 students that I interact with in my life. My tennis girls have already sacrificed months of practice time this summer. My MUN kids have already responsibly decided to host our annual Griff Mun conference virtually. My Guam board is already rethinking this year's canceled retreat and ways to access the freshman class next semester. My AP students are grappling with learning a college course all online and before their time. And now, as a co-teacher, I have to prepare my students who are on IEPs and 504s to get ready to learn in a portable that should have been retired years ago with up to 25 bodies in one room. These conditions cannot follow physical distancing guidelines. I love my students so much, and to be frank, we in this district for years have been asking a lot of them. When the pandemic hit this spring, we asked even more of them. Now we're adding rules for them to follow that even some adults are struggling with. I ask you why? Why are my students making responsible decisions, but we're not? There's nothing more that I would love to be back in my classroom and on the courts, but there are certain achievable steps to safety that must be met before this can happen. A mask mandate, smaller cohorts, and better ventilation can ensure we will maintain safety. Lastly, I implore you to please understand that teachers and students are on the same side. They want to learn, and they want to keep each other safe. Imagine being the student that puts your teacher in the hospital, or vice versa. You have the power to do this right. Do we really want to be the district that sets the example of what not to do during a pandemic? It's only going to take one case, either a student, faculty, or a classified staff member, to ruin our reputation that we've worked so hard to build. Thank you.
Thank you. And after Cynthia, we have David Eisenberg.
Good evening. My name is Cynthia Viña, and I am a teacher at Los Alamitos High School. I am here on behalf of all the teachers and students that are considered high risk for complications with COVID, and for those who live with someone who is considered high risk. At our last staff meeting, there were many unanswered questions and confusion about reopening with the proposed hybrid model. And this is in no way to fault our administration at the high school, but it shows that we are nowhere near ready to reopen safely. My question to the board is, why are we rushing this? In a time where there is so much uncertainty about what could happen, and we know that a second wave is coming, why are we not following the strictest CDC guidelines for reopening? Why are we taking such a risk that could be detrimental to our most vulnerable populations? We claim, via our district motto, that we are better together. Why not stand together now to protect our teachers, staff, students, and families? Even if just one person died, that would be an absolute tragedy for our community. Why not follow CDC guidelines to at least say that we did everything that we could to prevent that from happening? If someone dies in our district or becomes seriously ill, can you honestly say to yourself that you did everything you could to prevent that from happening? Many of the measures that we have taken are simply for show. Temperature checks are ineffective for asymptomatic carriers, and over 50% of those who test positive are asymptomatic. Plastic shields on student desks are also ineffective when COVID is an airborne virus. And with the HVAC system currently in place, our students and teachers will be breathing recycled air from inside. It is disheartening and demoralizing to see that we are rushing and figuring things out as we go, with no regard for our high-risk populations or families. This is a novel virus. We do not have all of the answers. Why are we opening as if we know for sure that the measures we are taking are going to keep us safe where we're not even following CDC guidelines? And clearly, there is a misunderstanding about how this virus spreads when people who spoke here today were not even wearing a mask. I, like many others, want more than anything for things to go back to normal and to be in the classroom with my students. But our new normal entails a pandemic unlike which we have ever seen in our lifetimes. This means that we have to go back to basics. Our number one priority and concern should be the safety of our students and staff. While I fully recognize that for some students, learning from home poses certain risks, I invite the board to consider providing spaces for those students to do their online learning from school, utilizing the outdoor shade structures we just purchased. I ask the board to please consider pushing back our start date. We are not ready for a safe return. Not at our high school, not with over 3,000 students, not when we're going to be exposing ourselves to all of our students each day that we meet. Please reconsider. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. David Eisenberg, and then Cynthia Hopkins.
Good evening. I am David Eisenberg, and I teach science at Los Alamitos High School. I speak tonight in my capacity as the elected high school director of LAEA, which the district recognizes as the exclusive representative for certificated employees. I would like to draw your attention to my staff's lack of faith and trust in our site and district administration. As teachers speak here tonight, you may notice common themes. 1. Reopening during a pandemic is a complex issue. There is a myriad of logistic and structural issues which must be resolved. It is widely believed that the district and its board have chosen expediency over safety and prudence. In addition, we feel that the district has used complex and legal language to mislead or obfuscate the truth from all stakeholders. Case in point, it is our conclusion that the parents believe that their students will sit 6 feet apart from each other in classrooms. In reality, this is not possible in the majority of classrooms at Los Alamitos High School. When pressured on the issue of whether parents were informed of this fact, the administration stated that parents were, and I quote, sent the official CDPH guidelines. It is obvious to those informed that the language in these guidelines obscures this basic fact. 2, our staff is fighting for basic safety standards, informing the district of the latest science, and checking to make sure that the latest protocols are followed. While it is LAEA's job to advocate for the well-being of our staff, the primary job of my unit members is to teach. The onus for creating a school that is safe for both staff and students lies squarely on the shoulders of the district, who employs a Department of Safety and Student Services. In an effort to amplify its own message, the district office has dismissed the majority of staff at Los Alamitos High School when they expressed concerns in opposition to the district's message. A letter of concern was sent and signed by the LAHS Faculty Forum with overwhelming support of its members. A Faculty Forum survey taken on September 17th, containing 101 certificated respondents, it showed that 82% of the staff did not feel safe with current protocols and addressed specific concerns needing to be addressed to allow them to feel safe about a September 29th reopening. I will be happy to share those survey results with you. C, 3 dissenting emails sent to the superintendent does not represent the majority view of certificated employees, as Dr. Pulver has publicly suggested. On behalf of the certificated unit members, we reject a hasty reopening driven by expedience rather than prudence. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, David. Then Cynthia Hughes, and then Eileen Smith.
Good evening. My name is Cynthia Hopkins. I'm a math teacher at Los Al High School. I've been teaching for 33 years. I'm reading a letter tonight written by a colleague from the high school who cannot be here. Good evening, Dr. Pulver and esteemed board members. Tonight, I want to do something a little different. Instead of addressing the people here, I'm going to pretend that I am speaking directly to the parents, grandparents, and guardians of our extraordinary kids in the district. Parents, I want to tell you the honest truth. We simply are not ready to open the doors to the high school next Tuesday. By now, you have heard numerous far-ranging reasons that highlight our teachers' specific insecurities and fears regarding student well-being. I am not an alarmist. Instead, I am a passionate teacher who has been given permission to speak on behalf of my many colleagues. Before I continue, you must know, parents, that all of us are desperate to get back to the campus and work with your kids in person. I cannot stress this fact enough. We miss them dearly. Working with your kids to a large degree is a significant part of who we are as individuals and in turn who we are as a collective whole. I started by informing you that I would tell you the truth, so you might be wondering, why should I trust her and the other teachers? I am here to tell you why. We are the same people who have earned your confidence year after year. This faculty has helped your kids learn to write powerful and persuasive essays, solve complex math problems, participate in stimulating science labs, speak new languages, and engaged in meaningful debates about world problems. LoSal educators have sponsored clubs to make your kids feel a sense of belonging. Our teachers have taught your kids how to better perform at their sport, how to create art from a blank canvas, how to sing with confidence on a stage, and how to navigate that difficult violin solo. Over the years, the teachers at LoSal have worked tirelessly to help your kids reach their dreams. So I hope it is not too arrogant to say that we should have earned your trust by now. After all, parents, before COVID-19, you trusted us enough to send the most cherished people in your lives to campus each and every day. Please, I implore you then to trust us when we tell you again that we simply need more time to safely reopen our doors. You might be asking yourselves right now, why don't the teachers themselves talk to the district leaders about delaying the start of the school year? Believe me, parents, we have tried over and over in a variety of ways to do just that. I am not here to place blame on our dilemma because truly no blame exists. However, parents, I think Dr. Pulver might be somewhat blinded by his earnestness and pride in making sure that LoSal once again leads the way in showing all the other districts in the county that opening safely right now is possible. The high school faculty does not agree. In any correspondence you have received from the district, the bottom of the letter or email invariably reads, "Better together." I'd like to take a moment to dissect that motto. The better part is easy to unpack. One of the aspects that is most attractive about our district is our desire to improve on the exemplary academics, arts, and athletic programs. We take pride in striving to be better, so your kids will in turn receive the best comprehensive education possible. The together part of the motto is a little more nebulous. Which individual groups coalesce to make up the collective together? Certainly the school board and district and site leadership teams are part of this whole, as are the custodians, the cafeteria workers, and of course the teachers. However, the most important of the together are the kids themselves. This, parents, is where you come in. You too are such a vital part of the word together in our motto. We simply cannot function as a viable and healthy district without you and your support. So from one important part of together, us, the teachers, to another, you, the parents, I am asking for a favor. After hearing our colleagues tonight, if you are now convinced that the risks in reopening next Tuesday outweigh the rewards, as soon as possible, please call the district office and/or send an email to voice your concerns, doubts, and fears. Please let them know that you trust the teachers enough to ask district decision makers for more time in ensuring that a safe, organized, and manageable reopening plan is in place before you send your wonderful kids back to campus. If you are successful in your endeavor to have your voices heard, we can guarantee that once again soon, your students will safely get the chance to experience the thrill of attending one of the most extraordinary high schools in the country. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next speaker is Eileen Smith, and after Eileen, we'll have Autumn Ego.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Good evening. My name is Eileen Smith, and I am a longtime Seal Beach resident and have been teaching English at the high school for 31 years. I am here tonight because I am disheartened by the poor decisions the district has made. As you heard, my colleagues have shared a number of issues preventing a safe and sustainable opening at LoSal High. Since March 2020, poor planning, poor implementation, lack of communication, and lack of protocols have been costly and detrimental to students and teachers. Hurried and reckless decisions about the learning management system, PLP, and the LoSal at home option have been unfair and unreasonable to all stakeholders. However, missteps in curriculum, pedagogy, and distance learning
That's one thing. But the poor decision of haphazardly opening in person on Tuesday may cost lives. And I am not comfortable with that decision. Thank you.
Thank you. After Autumn, we'll have Joe Stolanovich.
Hi, my name is Autumn, and I have 3 boys. I have 1 at Oak, and I have 2 at Los Alamitos High School. And I want to just say thank you to so many of the teachers that are in this room that are really working hard to provide the best education for our kids. And to you guys, I think that I've heard a lot of people express distrust of the situation, and I don't see that you have given us any reason to distrust anything that has happened. I feel like you have guided us through the opening of the elementary schools and through the middle schools with humility. You've found the areas that you maybe made some mistakes, and you fixed them and you changed them. And my son went to Oak today and had a fantastic time. I was a little nervous about all the arrows, but he made it through around the buildings counterclockwise, and it was great. But I just want to say that as a parent, I think fear came when we brought our son home from the hospital and laid him in, and we thought, is he just going to stop breathing? You know, our first son. And I think that fear hasn't really lessened as they've gone through life. We strap them into car seats that they could die. Every day we turn on our car. I did a little bit of research today, and I found that in the entire United States, 55 children have died. 55 children have died of COVID. The yearly statistics of children dying of suicide are 6,000. And I look at the risk to my children of staying at home and being isolated and being alone, and it's hundreds of times greater than them dying of COVID. And so I'm willing to take all of the risks that all of these people are outlining because I want health, safety, and health for my children, mental health and safety. I want the best education that we have to offer. And I don't think anybody feels that the hybrid model is a great solution. But if it's the step that we have to go to get to in-person learning, then we're willing to take it because we want what's best for our students. That's why all of us are here. And I believe that if this is the step that we have to take, then we should take it. And so I appreciate all of the teachers. I appreciate the board. And we just really respect the struggle that you guys are having, the balancing act that you're going through. But just want to express my strong support of the continued efforts to bring our students to the hybrid model and then through as quickly as possible to full-time instruction. Thank you.
Thank you, Autumn.
I just want to point out one thing. It seems like there's a lot of teachers in this room that are applauding for each other, and the parents, when they've gotten up and spoken, nobody's applauded for them. It seems like the parents have been came late and are in another room, and the teachers made it in this room, and I feel like that might be kind of swaying some of the feel in this room. So just wanted to point that out.
Thank you, Autumn. Okay, we have Joe, and then I have Robert Actually, to me, it looks like it should be Mendoza, but I don't know if that's a D or not. So Robert, again, I keep apologizing to everybody tonight. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Tina. President Cantulli, members of the board, my name is Joe Stilanovich. I'm a parent. I have 3 children in the district. I'll try to be respectful of your time and the time of the audience and not be redundant. I applaud what the last parent said. I agree with her 100%. I think returning to school is really important to the mental health of our children in our community. But what I really wanted to speak to is Dr. Pulver's plan. I'm a retired first responder. My master's is in emergency management. And I currently work for a very large private company where I'm the chief contingency officer for COVID-19. We have 28 facilities across California and about 20 different companies, so I understand the complexities, I understand the difficulties and the challenge of building a contingency plan in a fluid environment. I want to assure you, as a professional in this field, that Dr. Pulver's plan is not haphazard. It is based on industry standards. It's based on the protocols and the guidelines. As I reviewed his program, I said, oh, that's all the things we're doing in our company. And our company has much deeper resources than the school district. So you are doing by the book, the way it should be. I believe in your plan, and I feel safe having my children return to your schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. And we have Robert and then Anita Patton. Robert, what is your last name? The D was just a little, I even put my reading glasses on. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Robert Mendoza, and I've got a senior currently at Los Alamitos High School and 2 graduates. Fantastic school district. Thank you very much. It's really difficult. I had something written, but the vibe is very different. I respect Eileen. I respect all of the teachers and what they're saying, but we have to get back to what we do, and that's go to school, go to work, get everything going forward. We cannot keep waiting. I'm scared to death of what's going to happen to our kids that stay home. They're already doing it on their own, the kids that like video games. And if we keep letting them do that, we're going to have a generation of kids that have no social skills. I interview people for jobs. They come in, 4.6 grade point average. Fantastic. What did you do in high school? You need to have socialization. You need to do things. And they go, 4.6 GPA. I go, but what did you do? They can't look me in the eye and say, I played sports. I was in the Glee Club. They need to be with each other. The kids, my kids, they have been socializing. We kept them home the first month. But after that first month, we couldn't do it. They were going crazy. And that statistic that this mom just said about suicide, I hope none of our kids get to that point, but it's a possibility. And if we've lost a handful of kids, it's too many, but 6,000 is a lot more. So I've read and admire what you're doing and you're trying to do, and I admire what the teachers and their point of view. It's like CNN and Fox. Everybody's right. There's something in the middle, and we have to find it. So I commend everybody here, both sides. We got to get back to where we are, and that's going forward and being a community and working together to find a solution to get the kids in class quicker, and the hybrid may not be the way to do it. Get them all back in. The kids are socializing. They're already mixing with each other, and if they're going to catch it, they're going to catch it. It's not going to be at school. And if you have to open a window and open the doors and get a fan on one end and a fan on the other, do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. And our last speaker is Anita Patton.
Good evening. We're going to finish on a different note. I am here tonight to share my concerns and feelings in regards to the layoffs of a specific group of classified employees. These, from the first announcement to now, it was an emotional roller coaster that we have felt that is almost indescribable. We have felt hurt, sad, confused, angry, disappointed, betrayal, and most of all, unappreciated. You've lessened us to a number and a category. We have names, we have faces, we have stories, we have talent, we have dedication. I'm talking about the 10, yes, just 10, 30-hour instructional aid special ed staff members. We've each given 20 plus years of our lives, our love, and dedication to the education of hundreds of special needs children. These are the staff that spend numerous hours a month off the clock, making sure these students are safe, coming in early to get a student off the bus who has severe anxiety and aggression. Those who stay after school, waiting for the buses when they're running late. No one's asked us to do this. We do this just for the dedication and the work ethic that we have. You can't expect that from someone else, and you definitely probably won't get it from the younger ones coming up. So while I was still feeling the sting of my layoff notice, I yet get another last-minute email saying my expertise is needed in the RAP program. Be there tomorrow for mandatory safety, diapering training, etc. But according to the resolution, last time, my position is unnecessary. Funny, it seems a little contradictory to me. As I had stated to many when the first abolishment resolution came out, my gut feeling was that the 30-hour positions would become, quote unquote, not available. Okay, as stated in the resolution. So now with the new resolution coming tonight, it looks like my correction, that I am correct in my assumption. The 10 of us, the 30-hour IAs, are the staff not being rescinded. The entire list, I've highlighted everybody. We are a group, a category that's being cut. We all worked hard and earned our 30-hour positions. We were offered these spots due to the needs of students of our programs. The need's not gone. These children need the consistency of trained staff. The teachers who teach these programs need and want these trained, dedicated, full-time staff. I understand the expenses of employees and benefits. I've run a large corporation. I know budgets and overhead are a big concern, but I also know the importance of good help, dedicated employees, and the old saying, you get what you pay for. Strong, talented, hard workers who give their hearts and souls for this classroom and this district. This all being said, we feel like you, the district, are targeting us because you don't want to pay benefits. And by cutting our hours, you think you won't have to. Well, I did some research, and according to the CSE contract, Article 16, Section B, read the whole thing, but comes down to the district shall provide employee-only medical coverage for employees working at least 0.75 FTA, which is our 30 hours. It continues with employees working 20 hours or more, but less than full-time and receiving employee-only medical coverage prior to 2016 are grandfathered in. So that cuts that concept of us not having to pay benefits to us. Okay, and as for lack of work, according to the August 11th resolution, I don't know where the lack of work is. I've been working 6+ hours a day, hands-on with these students, doing my job. So please enlighten me on the logic of laying off an entire classification. I'd like to know the justification of cutting our hours. There's actually was 10, there's now 8 who have taken their retirement. I don't see the cost benefit or the education benefit of cutting our hours down. You will still have to pay our medical benefits. This is a numbers game to you, but it's personal to us and the families we support. We want our 30 hours. We need our 30 hours. We earned our 30 hours. Our 30 hours help students. How do you think the morale of the staff is right now? The anxiety of waiting to see if you have a job or to see if your hours are cut, waiting for the next letter to see what your options are. So as of now, I have an option of bumping a 28-hour staff. Then they get to bump somebody. Then they're going to bump somebody. Talk about an emotional roller coaster. Thinking you have a job, getting laid off, getting a rescind order, then finding out you get bumped, losing some of your hours, or getting laid off again. What happened to Team LoSal? Better together. One vision, one team. Being laid off or hours cut is not our vision. What's best for our students? This is what's best for our students. Us being here, us being dedicated, our time, our passion, our love for children's education. Thank you for your consideration. Please keep us employed.
Thank you, Nita. Our paraprofessionals do so much for our school district. We're now finished with our training and staff participation. Before we go into information and presentations, I want to check with the board members if anybody needs a quick break, or should we keep going? Keep going. Okay, good. We're going to marathon right through this. Our next thing is the presentation of supplemental materials. Mrs. Reed.
Catuli. Tonight we're bringing forth the Big Day Scholastic for pre-K. This is a virtual preschool supplemental material that will be implemented for the purpose of offering a virtual preschool to those families wishing not return for in-person instruction in our child development center, and it will go on public preview for the next 30 days.
Okay, thank you so much. We're now on to the consent calendar. The consent calendar has items that are considered normal and usual of nature. We usually if we don't have any pulls, we'll take it as a whole. Do I have any pulls on this meeting? No. If we have questions, they're answered before the meeting starts, and sometimes we pull in order to highlight. So I will entertain a motion to approve consent items 10A through P.
So moved.
Okay, is there any discussion? Okay, roll call.
Mrs. Russell. Aye. Ms. Cattouli.
Aye.
Mrs. Davidson.
Aye.
Mrs. Hill.
Aye.
And Mr. Boyer.
Aye.
Okay, we're now on to the approval of the school district, Los Alamitos Unified School District Learning Continuity and Attendance Plan, which they're now calling it the LCP. We had a workshop and a presentation at our last meeting. Mrs. Reed.
Thank you so much, President Cattouli. Tonight, we are bringing forward for formal action the approval of our learning continuity and attendance plan. As you know, it's a key part of the overall budget package this year for TK-12 education, and it seeks to address funding stability for schools while providing information at the local education agency level for how students and learning continuity will be addressed during COVID-19 crisis in the 2021 school year. We have sent this plan to OCDE, and we have received some revisions as well as additional feedback from stakeholders that have been included in the final version that we bring forward tonight.
Okay, thank you. May I have a motion for approval?
I move approval.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion on the board? I would really like to say thank you to Melissa Davis, who did a lot of work to get this taken care of. This is similar, I'm almost afraid to say it's similar to our LCAP because I don't want to confuse people, but all the rules have changed. So I appreciate the fact that Mrs. Davis had to relearn how to do something that she just really had down pat for a while. So thank you for your efforts. So this is a roll call.
Mrs. Russell. Aye. Ms. Cattouli.
Aye.
Mrs. Davidson.
Aye.
Mrs. Hill.
Aye.
Mr. Boyer.
Aye.
Okay, the next item is the approval for certificated personnel to serve as members on the administrative expulsion hearing. What?
You didn't say it was approved.
Oh, that's right. Mrs. Russell keeps me in line. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, then we're on to approval for certificated personnel to serve as members on our expulsion hearing panel. Dr. Fraser, please.
Thank you, Madam President. Yes, we're bringing forward the approval for certificated personnel to serve as members of the administrative expulsion panel, hearing panel. In accordance with our district policies, the board may appoint an impartial administrative panel composed of 3 or more certificated personnel, none of whom shall be the board members themselves. So.
Okay. May I have a motion?
I move approval.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Mrs. Russell. Aye. Ms. Cattouli.
Aye.
Mrs. Davidson.
Aye.
Mrs. Hill.
Aye.
And Mr. Boyer.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously 5-0. Our next is our resolution to restore classified position and services. Dr. Fraser, do you want to speak to that?
Thank you, Madam President. Yes, this is the resolution 2020-21-07 to restore classified positions and services here tonight, and we're pleased to bring to the board this resolution that will restore 126 additional classified positions in addition to the 151 classified positions that the board restored from last board meeting.
Okay, thank you. And Mrs. Davidson, will you please read part of the resolution for the motion?
Whereas on August 11th, 2020, this board adopted resolution number 2020-2021-3 to reduce or discontinue specified classified positions and services effective October 12th, 2020, and directing the classified employees impacted by that action receive notice that their services will not be required for the ensuing 2020-2021 school year. Whereas the superintendent's designee served notice to the classified employees affected by the board's action, and whereas the jurisdictional and statutory prerequisites for the layoffs of classified employees due to lack of work and/or lack of funds were satisfied as to the employees potentially impacted by the board's action, and whereas the operational needs of the district are such that one or more of the positions identified for elimination in Resolution 2020-2021-3 should not be eliminated, but should continue on an ongoing basis until further action to this board. Now, therefore, it be resolved that this board withdraws its intention to reduce the following classified positions, and there are 126 of them. So it's hard. It's been heartbreaking, and we're happy.
Yeah. Okay. Let me have a second, and then Dave, then I'll have you speak. So may I have a second to the motion?
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Then I know Mr. Boyer would like to speak.
I just have a question. As we've heard the audience speak tonight and heard our staff speak from our high school,
all of these positions that we're rescinding the layoff notice, if we did not open the high schools or the middle schools, would these positions have come back into play, or our elementary schools, or would we still have had to have just kept the layoff notices?
Okay,
Maybe Mr. Frazier could speak to that.
Yes, Mr. Boyer. So as we stated from very early on, the layoff really was, the layoff resolution was really about not having work for some of our classified employees that were 9.5-month employees. So when kids come to school, there's work for our 9.5-month employees. When kids are in distant learning, there isn't the work for our classified employees. So we have said from the beginning that as we reopen schools, our goal was to bring back our classified positions, and that's why we are rescinding these positions. I think in total it's 277 approximately. And all of our employees, even the ones that we that won't be brought back to their full position, will be restored in some capacity on our school sites for this year.
And thank you for making that clarification. I knew the answer, so I asked the question knowing the answer. I just want to make sure the public understands that if our schools don't open, there's another ramification for not having employees go back to school. We want to do it safely, but we want to keep our employees employed and put them to work, and we want to teach our kids in a safe environment. So just once again, this is good news by opening our schools, being able to open our middle schools successfully like we've done today, our elementary schools that are doing really, really well, and our high school, and hopefully things continue down, we get them open, that these positions are needed, and that's all part of our LoSal working better together. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Good
Okay.
point, Dave.
Roll call.
Mrs. Russell? Aye. Ms. Cattouli?
Aye.
Mrs. Davidson?
Aye.
Mrs. Hill? Aye. Mr. Boyer?
Aye.
And thank you for highlighting that, Dave. The next motion carries 5-0 unanimously. Okay, we next have approval of AB 1200, public disclosure of a salary settlement and tentative agreement between the LaSalle Unified School District and CSEA, which is the California School Employees Association. And Dr. Frazier, would you like to speak to that?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. So we do bring forward the AB 1200, which is any time that we have a tentative agreement with our associations. This one specifically has to do with CSEA and our tentative agreement for the collective bargaining, our collective bargaining agreement for the 2019-2020 school year.
Thank you so much. Now I'm reshielded. Okay, I would like to thank everyone on the bargaining team for both of our unions and the district representatives. This was such a challenging year with COVID coming in and not being able to really meet all the time in person, and it was just a very tough negotiation. So may I please have a motion to approve this?
So moved. I'll second.
Any comment?
I just reiterate what you said, Meg. It was not an easy process in the sense of that bargaining and not being able to be in the same room and share the way that we do IBB, I think is a little bit of a challenge, but I think everybody overcame it, and I'm very happy that we have gotten to this point. So thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Hill. I have allergies. I feel like I need to carry a card, when I cough and sneeze. Okay, I have a motion and a second, so I need a roll call.
Mrs. Russell? Aye. Ms. Cattouli?
Aye.
Mrs. Davidson?
Aye.
Mrs. Hill? Aye. Mr. Boyer?
Aye.
Thank you. And the next item is the public disclosure for a salary settlement with our teachers, which is Los Alamitos Unified School District and the Education Association, LAEA. Dr. Fraser.
Madam President, thank you. I really would like to take a moment to acknowledge both of our association presidents, Mitch Bonales for CSEA and Stacy Schmitz, who's here tonight, for their work. As you said, it was a challenging year, building new relationships with new people and new teams, and I do really appreciate the work that we did with IBB this year. Although it was long, it felt good to be here where we are tonight. Doing the public disclosure. So this one is for the Los Alamitos Educators Association. So same thing, public disclosure of the AB 1200.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion.
Second. Thank you. Does any board member like to make a comment?
I would just like to comment on the leadership of Stacy Schmitz. She gives heart and soul all at the same time. She's a teacher during this craziness, trying to get her classrooms together, help and support everybody else. And I
she's
think
a mother.
she's a mother, and she has a high school student and a little one, and she gives heart and soul. And it's true of Mitch too, but I've had a lot of experience watching Stacy, and you're an angel, so thank you.
I second that.
Okay, yeah, and again, it's easy for us on the board just to say aye, and we know this takes hours and hours and hours of many people's work, and we just so appreciate having a partnership where we can do this. Roll call.
Mrs. Russell.
Aye.
Ms. Cattouli.
Aye.
Mrs. Davidson.
Aye.
Mrs. Hill.
Aye.
Mr. Boyer.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0 unanimously. We're on to the approval of a title change from Facilities and Construction Manager to Bond Program Manager. Dr. Fraser.
All right, thank you. This is the approval for the position of title change. So previously, it was the title was Facility and Construction Manager. We did update to reflect the job duties of the current classification to Bond Program Manager. And just as a reminder, there's no change in any contract or salary.
Okay, and this is a position for a person because of the size of our district and the amount of construction that we're doing. We don't have the personnel or the expertise on our staff to oversee all of our construction and all the needs that we have. So an individual was hired to do just specifically that, and when we run out of bond money and construction, I'll have to say goodbye to her. She's doing a great job. May I have a motion, please?
Move approval.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Russell.
Aye.
Ms. Cattouli.
Aye.
Mrs. Davidson.
Aye.
Mrs. Hill.
Aye.
Mr. Boyer.
Aye.
Okay, we're on to the approval of our warrants. Warrants is similar to the district's checkbook. We get them with our agenda. We read through them. If we have a question on a specific warrant, we send our questions in and we get them answered. So may I have a motion to approve the warrants?
I move approval.
Second.
Is there any discussion on the board? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Russell.
Aye.
Ms. Cattouli.
Aye.
Mrs. Davidson.
Aye.
Mrs. Hill.
Aye.
Mr. Boyer.
Aye.
Okay, now we are on to the acceptance of our donations. We have an incredibly generous community. I was also on a Zoom meeting for PTA Council, and we're just talking about how no one has fundraisers anymore. The school carnivals aren't being discussed, and we're not having ice cream back to school socials. But we have still received some money from some people that come in, and we just really appreciate it. Every little bit we get. I know when we get back more to pre-COVID conditions that we will be having so many activities, it will be crazy. But we already have year-to-date over $770,000. So my whole point of this is to say thank you to all of our generous people in our community, and we do appreciate what you do for us. May I have a motion, please?
Mrs. Cattouli,
Oh.
it was 77,000.
Did I say $77?
No, you said 7,700, I thought.
Oh, so I could have. I could have. I'm trying to, keep the balls juggling here,
There you
and
go.
I'm dropping some,
Go
so
on.
no problem. But thank you for the correction, because it is over 77,000. May I have a motion, please?
Move approval.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion on the board?
Actually, I just have one really quick thing.
Okay, go ahead.
Somebody always usually explains to the people who are here, we don't just stamp yes 5-0 votes all the time. That it's important. These 4 typed pages are all the questions that we asked about the agenda that we got last Friday. We get all of the answers, and if there's a problem, then you can always take something off the agenda. But we get the answers, and then we can talk about it or whatever. But we don't just say 5-0 on everything without thinking about it. There's some really in-depth questioning that always goes on. And then as far as donations goes, thank you. You're generous, just such a generous community. Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Russell.
Aye.
Ms. Cattouli.
Aye.
Mrs. Davidson.
Aye.
Mrs. Hill.
Aye.
Mr. Boyer.
Aye.
I would also kind of like to tag on to what Mrs. Davis had just said. As board president, it is my job to move the meeting along. We are having a long meeting, and that it's perfectly fine. But I'm now thinking I may be rushing things.
No, I don't
Okay.
think so. No, I just want to
I'm
say
just trying to be
that.
highly efficient here. Okay, we're now on to our classified and revised certificated personnel report. Dr. Fraser.
Thank you, Madam President. I am bringing forward the classified personnel report as presented. And then additionally, we're bringing forward the revised certificated personnel report. Just the note on that would be that in the category of percent FTE, originally we had 100% in one of our positions, and it was really a 60% position. So that's the noted change. I just wanted to let you guys know and bring forward that revised certificated personnel report.
Okay, thank you so much. May I have a motion, please?
Move approval.
Second?
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Russell? Aye. Mrs. Cattouli?
Aye.
Mrs. Davidson?
Aye.
Mrs. Hill?
Aye.
Mr. Boyer?
Aye.
Okay, we're now on to communications by board members. Mrs. Russell.
Okay, first off, we had a very successful board candidate workshop last Tuesday. All of our candidates were in attendance and somewhat, by Zoom. And Dr. Pulver and I did the presentation, and I think it's very well accepted. And I congratulate the people who took my advice and came to sit in on the whole meeting. So now you can see what you have to look forward to if you are elected. Another thing, we had our SELPA board last Wednesday. Part of the people did it over by the phone, and a couple of us came in person. And we had we honored one of our employees that retired, and we were able to give her a cake and a plaque, and that was very nice to be able to do that. And she was one of our occupational therapists, but she retired as August 31st. And then we had to pass some board policy. When I first came on the SELPA board, they had no board policies, and so I started pushing for them to do board policy. So now they did, and they had 3 up for first reading, and one was a COVID-19 mitigation plan, and then the other one was the administrative discretion. And I just felt that was such an emergency, they needed to adopt it immediately. So it was unanimous by the board, and they decided to adopt it immediately. So, the executive director could have the discretion, and they have a board policy in place to deal with all the COVID-19 issues and with the SELPA. For people who may not know what the SELPA is, it's a special education local plan area. And we're on one of only 2 boards in the state that oversee a SELPA, an actual board. And we have 6 districts that work together to share resources, because we can't all provide all of the special ed needs, and so therefore we're able to share the responsibilities. And you students might come to our autism program. They might go. You probably heard of Hope School, and they can go there in various and sundry places. So it's a very important board, and I enjoy being on it. And I just want to thank all the people who came and spoke tonight. We have a very passionate community, and I appreciate all their opinions. We're going to try to make the kids just as safe. I know the administration's been working their tails off trying to make things safe for our students, and we want them to have the best education possible. So thank you again.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Davidson.
Okay, so I'm going to be quick, but I just first of all want to thank everybody who came. And Autumn, I'm going to speak to you, because what you shared is exactly one of the parts of this whole complex problem that I think is desperately important, and that's the social, emotional, and mental well-being of our students. And having taught at McCullough for 25 years, I lost 3 students when they went on to high school to suicide. 2 of them, one beyond high school, but the teachers and people who work on the campus as custodians, the nurses, the counselors, they see things. We see things. And you can't see them on a screen. It can't be seen on a screen, although teachers are telling me when they look on those screens, they're seeing kids with blank stares, kids looking away. It's not an effective, it's the best tool we had, but I believe that as we go forward deciding what to do about the high school, we have to take into consideration the mental, social, emotional well-being of every student, because way back in May, that one hotline was up 400% on kids calling in about anxiety, depression, and talk of suicide on a daily basis. They're invisible right now, and we can't see them, and they're not just the students that we always think, not just the ones that would hide in the back of the class or sit alone at lunch. Some of them are anxious AP students who feel like they're not getting the education they're going to need to get into Stanford. But we need to be there for those kids, and we need to do everything we can to make the campus safe. But I also think we cannot consider safety without considering the mental and social emotional well-being. So thank you, Autumn. Thank you for bringing that to the discussion. And then finally, I was at my sister's classroom at McAuliffe helping her set up on Sunday, and all the parents were walking through with the kids. They were so joyous. It reminded me of the first day, the day before first day every year. And they were walking past the classrooms, and one teacher asked me later from the high school, weren't they upset because those seats weren't 6 feet apart? I said, no, they were so joyous to see that there was a classroom set up for their kids to come into. They were sitting under the canopies, sitting at the picnic tables with their kids. They were laughing, looking at the signs. It was a really joyous experience. I walked the campus at the high school to see about congestion, and the girls' water polo team was coming out of the pool, and they said, thank you, thank you. We are so thrilled to be here, and this pool is beautiful. We feel like we're in heaven. So there's a whole lot to making a decision, and it isn't just necessarily the things that we are dealing with to the best of our abilities in terms of ventilation and disinfectants. It's about getting our kids here and having them close to us so we can be with them and have that connection. So thank you, Autumn.
Mrs. Hill?
Thank you very much. Mrs. Davidson, we've all been on the same page about the mental health of our students. I have been talking about that since this began. And so I do want to thank all the speakers. One of the things that I believe very strongly is that we do need to hear all voices, and not just the ones that agree with us. And so I appreciate how everybody conducted themselves and their thoughts. And no, I can't live in somebody else's skin, so I can't know what somebody else is feeling. And we're doing everything we can to try to help alleviate those fears. But things that I heard tonight, also I heard from parents. And I heard from professionals that are professionals in the public sector that are dealing with this and dealing with getting people back to work, back to school. We can't stay in this limbo. And one gentleman, I think it was Mr. Mendoza, he talked about moving forward. And we have to find whatever we can to be able to move forward, because staying stagnant, I am desperately concerned about this generation that's coming up. And, you know, we are very fortunate here in LaSalle in this wonderful community with great parents. And this is the school district I'm concerned about, but I have a bigger global view as well, and so concerned about so many children out there. I listened to a podcast. It's called This American Life. It's an NPR podcast. And they did a whole series on students going back to school. And when people, and some of them are our staff and our teachers, come in here and tell us that they haven't been communicated with, and they're not, and that we aren't prepared, and that we haven't done this work. And I sit here and I get information every week about what we're doing, what we're adapting, how we're pivoting, what the extremes that we're going to make things safe. And I was listening to this podcast, and the first one, I had to giggle because it was the staff meeting. They came back to a staff meeting, I believe it was in Tennessee. They had no idea what they were going to be doing. In an hour into the staff meeting, they said, okay, you be prepared to teach in traditional setting. 3 hours later, they said, oh no, we got a call from the DO. We're changing. Now you have to go everything virtual online. We have had a plan and it's adapted, but it has been true to what we have been trying to do, and we have laid those guidelines out as I'm not sure how we could lay them out any more clearly. And so I want to say, and then the last part of this podcast was about a charter school that is going back and all the plans they took and so on and so forth. And the director of that school said, I am confident in what we are doing with our schools and our children. And I am confident in what this staff and what we're doing to get our kids back into school. So I just want to thank everybody and thank staff. And I really do appreciate everybody coming. And like I said, I can't live in somebody else's skin. I also do want to really thank, once again, I think it got a little bit, the public may not have heard as much about what we've done with the bonds, or not what we've done with the bonds, with what Dr. Nguyen and Dr. Pulver has done, and the amazing opportunities that they've taken with these incredibly low interest rates to refinance and to sell our bonds, so that we are going to be sitting in such an amazing position to get the work done that we want to get done, as well as really save the taxpayers, all of us, money. And like Mrs. Catulli said, because I believe the same thing, I believe in so strongly in local control. And, you know, and I've gone out there twice now for bonds and said, trust us, we will manage this right, we will take care of our community. And thank you very much, staff, for doing that. Very much appreciate that. And I also went to the Oak Back to School Night, and I just love the ingenuity of everybody and trying to just connect as much as they can. And so that was, even though I was in my kitchen making dinner, I really enjoyed going to the Oak Back to School Night. And then thank you, Dr. Pulver, for sharing those pictures of students on campus today. And the elementary school parents that I have talked to that are just over the moon. And I really appreciate that very much, and truly appreciate all the efforts that we've gone through. So that's it for me, Mrs. Gatuli.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm sorry, didn't mean to be leaning all over the place. Mr. Boyer.
Well, good evening, everybody. It's late here on the East Coast, and I'm actually staying right across from the Department of Education. And you could probably see it if I could turn my iPad over here, right across the street. But I would just say I appreciate all the comments. You know, it's hard to listen sometimes to all of those things. I want to thank all the parents that emailed me. I've probably the biggest barrage of emails I've seen. And I've always wanted parents to have a choice in the district and to look toward the best interest of students. And so we've done that as best we could as we've gone through this fluid motion. I want to thank Dr. Pulver in his tireless work with his team. Things that we're doing, we're on the fly. The new shields that we're putting up in the middle school that we did, that weren't available. It's in your explanation, your report of things we've done as we've opened the elementary schools, now the middle schools today. That was exciting to see the pictures of that, and I can't wait to get back tomorrow and drive by the campuses and see that excitement. The students I've talked to in my neighborhood that are just so happy to be going back in school. I can't tell you the elementary school kids and now the middle school kids and our high school kids. There are so many high school kids that have personally come to me and said, we can't wait to get back in school. We want to do it safely. I hear the concerns. You know, we keep addressing them. I want to thank Jerry for getting us testing, for everybody to be tested, for COVID testing, to come to our site and do it. That's phenomenal when I look at what's going on. And I felt assured hearing several other outside agencies, people, professionals in COVID-19, like you talked about, Diana pointed out, talking about what we're doing and how we're doing it. And then I couldn't leave without saying thank you, Nancy Nguyen, for your time and your work with our bond person to save us, Mr. Carty, to give us, taxpayers don't see this, but $29.8 million is an awful lot of money to save taxpayers that they'll never have to pay. And And like Diana said, our timing seems to be impeccable. We have these things happen. Now we have our bond money and we're able to go out and do construction during a time when we don't have students, haven't had that many students on campus, and we're getting really good rates to go out and do it. So with that, I'll see you when I get back. And again, thank you for all you do, everybody.
And thank you for hanging in so late on the East Coast. Appreciate that, Dave. Okay, real quickly, I'll give my report. I had my ROP meeting, and at the beginning of the school year, the administrators who oversee the different high schools give reports, and Kathy Kent gave her report, and she's our administrator at the high school. And she had a couple of really, I thought, great things, and I wanted to share them. We do have a fire tech group of classes for our students. And so now they're virtual, so it's a little bit harder because they don't have the mannequins and the equipment and all that kind of stuff. But Mr. Erickson, who is the teacher, with all of the brush fires that are occurring all over California, took it as an opportunity to really teach and learn. So he had the kids get into groups, and they were creating presentations about heat, rate of speed, direction, type of terrain, the slope, wildfire preparedness, and safety. And so they were presenting, like, we have this fire, and like the Bobcat fire, this is the terrain, this is the weather we have, what are you guys going to do to put it out? And I thought, except for actually having a hose in your hand, great work. And I don't necessarily want them to have hose on their hands. And then we also had our, part of that entire thread is we have a capstone class for our EMTs, emergency medical technicians. You can actually take this class, and if you're 18 years old and you take the class and you pass the test, you can get a certificate to be an emergency medical technician. And so they're preparing for their exam, and the students are making their own videos about how they deal with trauma calls, like a car accident, heart attacks, strokes, diabetic comas, and how to reach people and teach them to be healthy. And then our careers with children. So this is our preschool class that's on our high school campus. We don't have any children. We don't have any high school students. So this is like a double negative going on. And so they went on a virtual tour of what they call it, the preschool lab, and started talking about the different stages of development and the difference between 3, 4, and 5-year-olds, and the different things that they need to know and be accustomed to and to learn. And they already have the students working on different level of classes for them. And as I mentioned sooner, I was able to attend a PTA Zoom council meeting. And I just really want to give a huge, huge shout out to our parent leadership at all of our school sites. Everything is virtual. All their plans that they would normally have going are just stalled. Because of COVID. We're not meeting in groups, we're not getting together. And they spent a great deal of their time talking about how can we really incorporate the LaSalle at Home students. Because regardless of, if you're a LaSalle at Home student, you may be in a cohort that doesn't have a lot of kids from your particular school, particularly in the elementary, but you still belong to your home school. And all the elementaries in particular want to make sure that the LaSalle at Home students feel connected with their larger community. And they spent some time brainstorming, and I just was so appreciative that they were really thinking, we are all here and we all need to be together. So they were a great group of people. And then I also really want to thank everyone who came and spoke tonight. It can be intimidating to come to a board meeting, have to keep, especially now, 6 feet apart, stand behind the plastic shield and address us. And as I said before, when people were talking to us, it's very frustrating that we can't have a conversation, but that is state law, so we can't have a conversation. But we really, really listen to what you have to say. And I really want to thank all of the parents who've been sending emails to us saying how important it is for their students now that they can start going back to class. I don't think I could say anything half as eloquently as Mrs. Davidson and Mrs. Hill did about the social emotional needs of our students and what can we as a learning institution, as an entire community, what we can do to support all of our students. And I keep thinking, once we get back and we get going and everything's rolling along really well, I'm hoping that we won't find out that we were too late or a little too short. I'm hoping that we're not going to find out that we need to bring in more counselors to help people at all levels. Someone made a comment about the silent kids who may not be participating in, by sitting back. We don't know their home lives. There are so many things that there's so many important issues that schools take care of. We truly educate and care for the whole child. So I do thank everyone who expressed an opinion. COVID-19 no one has ever experienced it before. Every single person has a different level of acceptance and comfort for many, many reasons. And Dr. Pulver said this, we just need to treat each other with grace. I have friends that, I think they sanitize their keyboard when they do a Zoom meeting for fear of getting sick. And I have other people where I'm constantly trying to step away from because we just are all over the place. We want what is best for our students and our staff and our community. And with that, I think I should be quiet because we still need to go back into closed session. I really appreciate everyone hanging to the very end. I appreciate everybody showing up. And thank you so much for your commitment and support to our school district. We will now go into closed session.